Well, good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning. How goes
Hey,
it?
see you, boys.
See you, Buku. Thanks for hopping on. We were just it's kind of fun when you got people that hang out in your chat and you don't ever get to meet them, and then they get to actually hop on the screen with you. It's fun.
He had to come over to fix the toilet this morning, Uncle Bob. I had to get him in here so they put a face with a name. How you doing this morning, sir?
Good.
Good.
Robert.
You want to give us your take on some college football? That's why I know that's what you want to talk about.
Yeah, I figured we would preview the big day, the games today. So
Let's do it. We got it pulled up right here.
Yeah, got the early games, got the obviously the big playoff games. I think is Wisconsin LSU the first one up technically?
Yes, sir.
All right, and that's the is that the Outback or the Citrus?
The Citrus is Tennessee. I believe that's the Outback, Wisconsin LSU.
All right. Another Big Ten SEC matchup. Where were you guys coming in on? I think the public is overwhelmingly on LSU. It's one of the most publicly bet games, public sides of the entire bowl series. Is that in Oregon over Liberty?
Yep.
Somewhat depending on where you're at, but the money line the money has been shrinking on Alabama. The public is on Alabama, but not as heavy as it started out as.
Yeah, we got according to Action, we got a 70% ticket count, but 60% money on Alabama in that one.
And I assume, what is it? LSU still over 70%?
On Action, it's 68%. So yeah, it's right around there.
And then what about Oregon? Is it the same there? It's still
74%.
Yeah, nobody can see little Liberty hanging with Oregon. So I think where is the line set? So it looks like sharp actions on Wisconsin. Is it under 10 again?
Yeah, it's at 9. Right now. I don't know how LSU is only laying 9 in this one. I mean, I'm not betting it. I'm staying away because these bowl games have just been so crazy. But I just don't see Wisconsin. Listen, Robert, Wisconsin lost to my Cougs. That's not a good loss.
Early in the year. Hey, but Cam Ward's the most sought after quarterback in the transfer portal. I mean, that guy went from, he's not really going to make it in the step up last year coming into this year to all of a sudden now being a guy that's going to be a millionaire in a week or two.
I'm happy for him. I'm glad he's getting paid, but whatever team he signs to, I'm gonna bet the season win total under after that because he's not good.
Yeah, he has to be in the right system, is my read, and have some other talent around him. I think somewhat it depends on how you feel about what's fascinating is that I broke down, watched all the Action Network guys in terms of their big bowl New Year's Day bowl games, the Wager Talk guys. Including Kelly in Vegas, who I like a lot, in terms of their analysis, and then a few other guys. There's like Odds Checker, and some of the ones that get a little bit more juice in terms of media attention and what have you. And so what was interesting is you had people that give contradictory interpretations, like Rob Vino, who I like. But when he was breaking down LSU Wisconsin, he gave a completely reverse take of what his Alabama Michigan take was. Like he played into, I see what the public's seeing. The public is seeing an LSU team that has the Heisman winner, an LSU team that is the bigger brand, an LSU team, and a Wisconsin team that mostly underachieved. The thing is, generally speaking, in bowl games, the teams that underachieve during the season, preseason expectations, overachieve in the bowl games, and vice versa. That's where it's one of those inverse data points. Teams that have a better spread record during the regular season are worse against the spread in the bowl season. The teams with the better overall record tend to have a worse spread cover record than the rest. You can kind of see why. A lot of people that haven't seen these teams necessarily a whole lot, looking at record, looking at spread record, looking at expectations, and LSU mostly exceeded expectations despite the early loss to Florida State. Whereas Wisconsin underachieved substantially with the Cincinnati head coach Luke Fickell coming over, and the Phil Longo, the offensive coordinator from North Carolina's explosive offenses, coming over, and Tanner Mordecai from SMU, who I think has one of the best young coaching staffs in the country, coming over. There was a lot of expectation that Wisconsin would sustain its defensive dominance and improve its offensive efficacy. And they have two great, NFL level tailbacks, some NFL offensive linemen, which they typically do. So people are looking at this and they see a blowout. The thing is, the other factors are, generally speaking, teams that are really good offensively and really poor defensively have a terrible spread record in bowl games. And then double-digit favorites for like the last 10 years has been a big money loser. Unless you're Florida State, you don't send anybody, and you'll remind the entire world why you should have been and were properly excluded from the college football playoff.
Tell them, Robert. Tell them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, lose by 60. I mean, at least have some pride.
Yeah.
That was embarrassing. If Tennessee last year had got in somehow, even without Hendon Hooker, I would have said, "Look, no, we're not one of the top 4 teams anymore, and we don't belong in the top 4." But if we'd been stuck with somebody like Florida State in a bowl game, or somebody like a Georgia or whomever, elite team, we would have given a much better game effort than that. That was a real disgrace.
I mean, they had everything on the line there. Like, if you went out and actually beat Georgia, then I could be like, well, I'm not into people declaring themselves national champs, but if you beat Georgia and went undefeated, I'd be like, okay, go ahead, hang your own banner.
You'd have had an argument for sure.
Oh, zero doubt. Liberty still will. We can talk about that. If they go undefeated, they beat Oregon, a team that there's a bunch of folks in Vegas that still insist Oregon is the best power rated team in the country. They'll have an argument for it. It'll be a heck of an upset. So you look at statistically, Mordecai was out a good part of the season for the Badgers. The Badgers are a little hard to read. So I see where the public is coming now. Jaden Daniels is out. It's Nussmeier, the guy.
I was going to ask you about that. Would you think that? Do you think that was already cooked into the line? Because when he got ruled out, the line really didn't move that much.
Only about a point and a half.
They already expected it.
Yeah, they had because I think this line early on when I initially gave out a pick on the game at sportspicks.locals.com, the line I think was close to 13. At one point, it got up there, but at that point, I figured no way Daniels plays. Or if he does, he plays like a first quarter, a couple of series to get Neighbors the record. And then it came out, I think, 2 or 3 days later that he was out, and that's when the line moved. And then it's bounced around 10. It went all the way down to 8, and then it bounced back up over 10, and now on game day, it's moving down closer to 9. I will say these kind of late movements, especially counter public movements where the public's on one side but the line's moving the other way, in bowl games has historically been a very strong indicator that even if you waited to bet to the worst number, if you will, that worst number has covered more often than not. So if you just follow the steam, as I like to say in Vegas, in bowl games, they've generally been profitable. Now, not always the last couple of days because there's been wild movement. In the last couple of days in all of these games. Florida State, that went from 13.5 to 23.5. I don't think I've ever seen a 10-point movement in the history and it obviously was nowhere near enough. They won by 60.
How about all the money that came in on Auburn and they just got spanked?
Oh, yeah, that was a surpriser, man. That shocked me.
I think it was twofold. A little bit of bad luck for Auburn, but Maryland was a sneaky good defense throughout the year. And Baby Tua was really not the key to Mike Locksley's offense that people thought. So there isn't a big drop off from Baby Tua to his other because Locksley's built a little bit of talent throughout the offensive schemes. And the key this year was their defense was respectable. It wasn't great, but it was a top 40 defense. And Locksley it has everything to play for in this kind of bowl game after this kind of season. Hugh Freeze, he was always so mad. He was complaining to the reporter on the sidelines. So he wanted them to win. But his problem is he had a terrible quarterback, Peyton Thorne. And on a week-to-week basis, you could out-scheme somebody like Hugh Freeze did. Very hard to out-scheme somebody when they get 3 weeks to prepare for you.
Yeah.
And that's where your scheme teams generally underachieve. We'll talk about whether Tennessee can still scheme its way around Iowa. But so I look at Wisconsin LSU. I think I see why the public's on it. I would just say that LSU fits the profile of the kind of team to fade in bowl games. Very, very poor defense, a big high profile offense, which just catches the eyes of the bettors, and Vegas knows that. Somebody sharp, heavy, very sharp must be on Wisconsin because Vegas would not want to move this line under 10. They don't like moving key numbers like that. And we know the public is on LSU. So for that line to drop a point under 10, a key number, says somebody that the bookies respect is on the Badgers. Now, the tricky part is assessing Big Ten versus SEC. So I heard some, the wager talk analysis was very much, hey, Wisconsin's slow, Wisconsin's underachieved, Wisconsin. And some of the points that the guy was making, Rob Vino, are very applicable to Michigan. But then he went around and then he went and flipped and took Michigan. And I was like, okay, it's a fascinating watching the internal logic. One of the things I like about these explanations these sports handicappers give is it really tells you how good their own logic is. And Vino was contradicting himself between these two games. In the Michigan game, he said, "Oh, it's all overrated. The Big Ten versus SEC difference. That's not really applicable anymore." And literally, the video right before that was him talking about how there's a big speed difference between LSU and Wisconsin and the SEC and the Big Ten. Problem is not this LSU defense. This LSU defense has stunk all year long. That Florida State game was not a sign of how great Florida State was to start the season. It was Ole Miss, another example. They couldn't stop them. They couldn't stop a wind. Josh Pate, to his credit, over at Pate State, and the rest over also on YouTube. Now got his nice. I remember when he was just like recording out of his studio in little, South Georgia. Now he's got a fancy studio up there in Nashville, and he's got he's on 24/7. But he stayed mostly the same personality. He early on said LSU's got massive defensive problems, and that internally their coaches are like, we're going to have some real problems this year defensively. And that's before some of these guys opted out for LSU.
Right.
So the question is, can a Wisconsin offense that had a lot of hype coming into the year with transfer quarterback Tanner Mordecai, with Phil Longo, now their two top wide receivers are out. It's not like those guys were stars. I mean, to be honest with you, they're transferring because they're not that good. Whereas the guy sitting out, Braylon Allen, that's a big one. But the other back is an NFL back, and he's playing. The center that got out, the center that's replacing him is the Cincinnati transfer, who was expected to have the job until he got hurt early in the year. So when I look at opt-outs in the combination of transfer and NFL, I think LSU took a much bigger hit. I think what people are missing is I'm seeing people give LSU look at their offensive profile as if Jaden Daniels is going to be in this game. And it's like, if you saw LSU this year, Daniels' legs was critical to his passing game. I mean, last year was really just his legs. But this year, it really he turned it both on. Nussmeier can't run. So that is a massive, massive shift. And some people think LSU's offensive line was great. So, no, literally, Jaden Daniels was a one-man band. I mean, great. Malik Neighbors was great wide receivers. But because nobody could stop his dual threat ability, it killed defenses all year long. Now you got a guy that's a statue back there. I mean, that's like going from Lamar Jackson to Joe Flacco. Though I guess this year that wouldn't matter so much. But in a normal year, that's to give people an idea. That's the gap that's about to happen here. And if you look at the history of Luke Fickell, your statue quarterbacks, he tends to handle okay. It's the athletic quarterback or overwhelming talent advantages. And LSU has a talent edge for sure in this game. It's just not the same. And everybody's making a big deal about Malik Neighbors playing. I guarantee you, he's only out there to get that record. There's no way he's risking his NFL career once he gets that record. He's not hanging out there for that whole game. I'm not buying that for a second. I think the only reason he's playing is for the record. So I look at this game and I can see why the public's on it. I can definitely see why the Sharp's on it. I do have a pick out at Sports Picks on it. That people can find for themselves because I got better odds on it than these numbers. But I lean, even at these numbers, I lean towards my law school alumni association there. To the boys in Madtown. I think Fickell also needs this game more than Brian Kelly. From a coaching perspective, there are rumors that Harbaugh has gone to the NFL no matter what happens in this playoff. And guess who it is? Well, I'd be interested in, here, I'll be curious what you guys think about this. The only reason why Kelly might have comparable motivation to Fickell needs a good finish to a Wisconsin season that a lot of Wisconsin fans expected a lot more out of him out of this season. So if he were to go in and compete with LSU, and didn't Wisconsin upset LSU years ago up there in Madtown?
I believe they did. What was it? In recent memory? I felt the last 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Because isn't that what got that Wisconsin defensive coordinator, the head coaching job, all the wasn't that Dave Aranda that ended up down at Baylor? Like that game is what really got him on the national attention.
I do remember that.
So this Wisconsin, because if LSU had Daniels, no way I touch Wisconsin in the game, because I think he's a single game changer that they just don't have a solution for. With Nussmeier, I saw him last year. He was okay, but he wasn't great in that Georgia game. I mean, Georgia, he only scored kind of late after Georgia was beating the crap out of him. I just don't see. This game could easily be a competitive game. I lean towards the Badgers. But do you think the rumors are that Kelly is the leading candidate to replace Jim Harbaugh in Michigan? Would Kelly jump ship from LSU that quickly? Now, I think it's because of the Central Michigan ties, but there's clearly a lot of whispers connected to people that seem to be connected to Kelly, that he's putting his name out there for the Michigan job, and that would give him a motivation to kind of beat Wisconsin, I guess. I don't know if that he needs that special motivation, but if Harbaugh leaves, I can see why Kelly would be the number one target of Michigan. Yeah. I just why if you're Kelly, do you go from LSU back to a program that has problems recruiting at an elite level?
I think that just simple fact and I don't know that the schedule will be that much easier once the USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, once they get to the Big Ten, it's going to make that division or that conference a lot tougher. But I think the rigors of going through an SEC schedule each year, having to play Alabama year in and year out, you got Texas, Oklahoma coming in. Like, I think if an opportunity like that provided itself, because they're obviously going to pay him to get him to have to do the buyout and all that stuff, but he'll get his money. And I just think that would probably be a softer landing spot than LSU. You know, they were already that first game of the year when they got thumped by Florida State, there were already whispers and people calling, you know, that seat was warming up pretty quick. Then he had a much better season. They wound up getting a Heisman Trophy. That bailed him out. They gave him a little extra time right there. You got a Heisman Trophy winner. But I think Michigan would be a much softer landing spot. And we've been saying for months, Will, Harbaugh's gone to the NFL, man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So you're suggesting he's got a bit of a Jimbo Fisher kind of condition there. That you know, he tasted a little bit of the SEC and he thought he loved it because on paper Notre Dame was a softer landing than LSU in terms of schedule, for sure. And you still got the national TV deal, all the rest. It seems like going from LSU to Michigan is almost an implicit recognition that he should not have left Notre Dame. That's how I take that. That he's like, I've met those LSU alums. I mean, 1 year before, what's his name won the national title? The grass
Les
eater
Miles.
there. Yeah, Les Miles. I talked to these LSU fans, hated him. These big alums, like, oh, he's totally done it. It's like they got spoiled so fast on just a few years of Nick Saban.
Oh yeah.
That if it's not Nick Saban, everybody sucks.
Nick Saban will do that to you.
Well, I hear it just means more down in the SEC, you know.
Well, it does mean more in the SEC, but
it's all about family.
Yeah, well, my favorite phrase about the SEC is if you're not recruiting criminals, then you're not really trying. You got to have true commitment. But but other than that, I mean, I think if Kelly jumped ship from LSU, I thought his ego would keep him from doing that. That he would want to prove he could do it. LSU is at one of the top 8. If you look at recruiting talent within a half day's drive of campus, if you have a premium brand, LSU is in the top 8. It's right there with Florida, Florida State, Miami, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, USC. There's a reason why Nick Saban did well there, and he did not do well at Michigan State. That's the other contrast. It's like Nick Saban kept going for, give me better recruiting, give me better recruiting. This would be a reverse direction. Michigan's a premium brand, but the state of Michigan is not a top 10 talent pool.
No.
And he's got to share that with Michigan State, some portion of it. And he's got to share some portion. I mean, even Ohio State can cross over and get players out of Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not like you can dominate the rest of Minnesota's got a respectable program now. Illinois' got a respectable program. Wisconsin's got a respectable program. So the kind of talent, let's say, Bo Schembechler could go and steal from the rest of the Midwest, the way Fulmer, when he was at Tennessee, could steal from, say, Alabama at times or Georgia at times, the way Osborne only got good when Texas and USC were down. So he can go and steal talent from Southern California, steal talent from Dallas and Texas.
Well, and you talk about that, look at the new schools coming in. I mean, they're going to probably take some recruits from you, too. Now that they're in the Big Ten, they're going to be in that country. They're going to have ties up there. So they could take some recruits from you, too.
Absolutely. So I don't see Michigan as a premium gig. I mean, I give Harbaugh credit. We'll get to this a little bit later when we do the Michigan breakdown with Alabama, which is my biggest bet in since Tennessee, Florida, 2001. will be on that Michigan-Alabama game. And so it'll tie the biggest bet I ever made. For those that don't remember, Tennessee was 18.5-point underdogs at Florida in 2001. That was give me money.
That was the year they bumped us to the end of the year because of 9/11. We wound up playing the last game of the year instead of in September.
Yeah, exactly. At a time when Dante Stallworth was now healthy, Albert Haynesworth was now healthy, Big John Henderson was healthy. I mean,
dirty.
Oh yeah, that was a sweet game.
Well, Kirk, I think I just confirmed where I'm putting the rent money today.
That's right.
Yeah, we were talking about earlier. Robert, real quick for you. We have a question from the chat. What's your take on the whole portal in college football? Do you like it? Do you like how players are moving around, and also, how it affects scholarships and whatnot? But are you a fan of the portal or not? I'm usually pro player, so I mean, let those kids go. If they want to leave, they want to leave. If you want to do a journeyman and do a 1-year deal and go try to win a Heisman somewhere, or go win, make some money. I don't even care if you win. Like we were talking about Cam Ward, go get your money, man. Like you leave WSU, go get paid. That might be the only time you get paid in your life. Go do it. So I'm more pro it, but I'm curious what you think about the portal.
My view is, we are the only country in the world where young professional athletes can't get paid. And there is no university school affiliation ban on payment in the rest of the world for the rest of the world sports, whether it's primarily soccer, but sometimes basketball. This doesn't exist, right? You go to you're part of the youth Arsenal program or the youth Man U program or wherever it may be. And so that's always been an anomaly here in the U.S., and we've maintained and sustained it under the illusion that they're not professional athletes, that they aren't bringing in massive amounts of money,
right?
That they aren't money-making machines.
Billions of dollars we're talking.
Oh, absolutely. And then you go to the second step, which is this has been mass redistribution from poor and working class minority kids to mostly rich kid sports. Nobody wants to watch women's lacrosse. There's only a few people that want to watch women's volleyball, and that's for special reasons that have nothing to do with the sport. So, I mean, you look at this, and it's like rich kid sports and college campuses disguised as Title IX in some cases, getting a bunch of money for sports nobody wants to really go watch and see, which wouldn't in an open marketplace even be there. I mean, frankly, the WNBA wouldn't even be there in a real marketplace. I mean, the NBA is giving them tons of money every single year. And my brother-in-law Michael, who does some basketball analysis for us at Sports Picks, I mean, he's a WNBA fan. My little sister's WNBA fan.
Is that Smokehouse Mike? Is that who
that's Smokehouse Mike.
Okay.
Mike. Yeah. Yeah. So he's a big basketball guy, the big sports bettor himself. And so I respect that. I can see if you're a purist, you can respect aspects of the game, but there is no market demand for them. And so we've distorted the market, and we've done so at the disadvantage of some of the most weakest market participants. And it was poor, working class, younger, mostly minority kids. And it's like, why? I see no justification for this. And instead, we have to go through shenanigans to get people paid. You got to do it under the table. You got to do it by paying off grandma. We create this unnecessary complexity. It's like, let the kids get paid. That's what I'm not. When I go to the game, God bless Josh Heupel, I'm not watching Josh Heupel. I like his schemes, and his schemes are something to behold. But I'm going to watch the players, and so those players should. And I'm giving ticket money. I'm giving donation money. I'm giving TV money. I'm giving merchandise money. That should be going to the kids primarily, and it should be going to
like Johnny Manziel. They sold $45 million number 2 Texas A&M jersey. He didn't get a penny off that.
Well, I mean, Chris Webber ends up criminally prosecuted for just trying to cover the fact he was like, look, I'm walking around and everybody's buying my jersey. And the only guy not getting paid is me for people buying my jersey.
Reggie Bush lost a Heisman.
You took the words out of my mouth, bro. They literally took Reggie Bush's Heisman trophy that he earned for all the same things that are legal now.
Completely. I mean, I always call it the Heisman since Charles Woodson stole it in 1997. And even before that.
Daniel stole it this year. God damn.
Well, we can go further back, 1950s, when when Johnny Majors, another Tennessee player, got it stolen from. But that year it was Jim Brown who got it stolen from him. When a guy on a losing Notre Dame team.
Yeah, they were like 4-9 or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a joke who votes for the Heisman. But I mean, Charles Woodson wasn't even in the top 4 that year. He didn't even belong being invited. I got a whole rant on that that goes 30 years in the making. But my view is I agree with what Chip Kelly said. He said we should have revenue sharing. These kids are bringing in the revenue. Let's cut through all the nonsense. Let's not even worry about having separate NIL deals and having to go through all these procedural shenanigans. Let's just do old-fashioned revenue sharing. And we can maintain the university affiliation, but no kid is good. I mean, imagine if you were one of the greatest plumbers in the world, but in order to become a plumber or get paid to be a plumber, you had to pass an art test. Think about all these really talented players who just weren't academically oriented, who never even got to shine because they didn't get to play in the amateur stage, or they end up like Maurice Claret, out of the league, never getting a chance.
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me completely. And it was because there's so much university branding power in the historic affiliation, we can maintain that without forcing these kids to go to school or any of this garbage. If you're a star player at one of these elite programs, you're not. Why should you have to go to school? That doesn't make sense. I mean, Charles Barkley, they had to have 3 special tutors whose only job was to make sure he went to class rather than party. But if you're Charles Barkley, why are you going to class? You don't need to go to class to learn how to be funny or dunk the ball.
Greg Oden took like the history of rock and roll or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I took that class too. That was fun.
Or these woke classes and the rest that they got these days. The nice thing about those woke classes is once you learn the ideology, you would never have to go to class. You could just repeat the same nonsense in every single section. Just change it. Figure out, okay, who's the oppressor, who's the oppressed. Boom, there's my essay. The easiest AI written essay in the world. It'd be hard to prove plagiarism because of how repetitive and duplicative it is. But yeah, I think all these kids should be paid. I thought they should always get paid from the get-go. I thought it was outrageous that their labor, value of their labor was being stolen from them. And not only that they were being forced to engage in all kinds of things that were irrelevant to the performance of the game. I mean, I thought that about like pot testing and whatnot. It's like, that's not an enhancer. That's not, it's like, why in the world are we prohibiting that? And then you have also the world about even enhancements. It's like, okay, all right, so a supplement is or isn't. You can enhance this way, but you can't enhance that way.
A lot of this stuff's legal before it's illegal.
Exactly. I mean, your dad might know a certain Lenny Dykstra. He had an alternative view of those alternative products but Lenny was one of the most fun players to watch play in the history of the game of baseball.
Pop said he was a cool guy.
Now, I will say, as an impact, transfer portal is great and NIL is great to equalize the playing field of good programs. I think it's going to ultimately hurt your lower tier programs because your lower tier programs won't be able to keep talent. So the programs that could have had, 5 years, your Wake Forest of the world, you're already starting to see it, right? Yeah. Look at Dave Clawson. His program would still be a top 25 program.
He's a great coach.
But for the transfer portal. His program, anybody who watched him at Tennessee knows he needs a couple of years. You give him 1 year, that's not going to work. But his offense only works at year 3, year 4, year 5 in the system. What happens when all those guys keep jumping ship?
Hard to maintain.
Absolutely. I mean, and he was developing his body talent.
The thing I like about the transfer portal the most is that the kids don't have to wait a year. You have to waste a year of your life just sitting there because you transferred. Like a lot of college. So I didn't need 4 years of undergrad to get into pharmacy school. The first 2 years of undergrad is just like, it's pointless anyways. But you have to go through the steps. You got to waste all this time. The same thing with the transfer portal here. It's like, oh, you've got to wait a year. You know how it used to be. You have to wait a year before you can play again. And I'm like, dude, that's a year of someone's life. Like that's
completely.
That's why you see all those guys that would transfer down to to the FCS level right there because you didn't have to set out a year to do that. But I mean, I always thought that was bogus too, man. Because some it doesn't work out. Sometimes you go to a place and you have this expectation of something. You get there and it doesn't work out, and you need to go be able to find a new landing spot and stuff because there's so many different factors go in this. Robert, I want to ask you about it's kind of another layer of this, but kind of like FSU wanting to jump out of the ACC for the money and things like that. What's your opinion on this whole deal here? Because they're tied up in riots till like 2036 or something, and so but they're trying to sue and all these different things because of being left out of the playoff. Whatever, you got to be by 60. But what do you think about this Florida State stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think the conference. I mean, we clearly we're finally where we should have been a long time ago, which is what the lower levels of football have been, which always refuted the argument that these that somehow would hurt their grades or whatever to have a real college football playoff. And 12 is probably a decent number. I mean, I would probably add another round to it. But at least we're moving in that direction. And what that's going to do, and it's already doing, is pushing us to really mega conferences. And sooner or later, it's like, why even have the conferences?
Right.
Conference championship game should be the first round of the playoffs,
Yeah,
you have some that get in that lose, like maybe the SEC, you can plug a couple people in, but like you punch your ticket with the conference championship.
They're de facto elimination games now.
Well, look at the top 20 in recruiting this year, 24/7 sports. It's pretty. I think it's 17 of the 20 are Big Ten or SEC. Now the Big Ten is now going to be a legit conference. It's all the Big Ten. I used to call it the Tiny 10. There's a reason why they kept losing in matchups against premier teams when they stepped up in class. But now you're going to have Oregon that's doing well recruiting wise.
Oregon, Ohio State, we get that. I'm excited. That's
going to be a great game. What?
Yeah.
You look at in the ACC, like as you noted, Florida State wants out. So it's because when Florida State signed that contract, the landscape changed. Now there were people predicting that, and Florida State just assumed that it wouldn't go against them. And if people don't know the history, Bobby Bowden had an opportunity to join the SEC way back. He didn't want to because he didn't want the schedule. He liked playing in the ACC where all he had to do was beat Miami and a good preseason team and not slip up against an NC State team where Bobby Bowden was like, man, that Torrey Hall is good. That's second year in a row I got torched by him. That kind of thing. But that's why Florida, like people keep forgetting, Florida State got into a national title game they didn't deserve against Tennessee. And there's, by the way, 7.5, 8-point favorites in that game. At least when I bet them.
Got whipped.
Got whipped. They had no business in that game. And everybody's like, well, they beat Florida with, outs. And it was like their offense still was not that good without Winky. And defensively, Mario Edwards had been torched all year, which is all we needed. That's why T. Martin beat Peerless Price, again, which you won't see on the ESPN replay because they break it up to let Keith Jackson whine, look at how great Keith Jackson is. This is a Tennessee Florida State game, and Keith Jackson didn't even really retire. That old fogey came back the next year just doing Pac-12 coverage. But that's ESPN's conspiracy against Tennessee, which continues unabated. But putting that aside, I see why Florida State is like, golly gee, now we don't like being in the ACC. This isn't where the big money is. The big money is all in the SEC and the Big Ten. That's where the lucrative marketing deals are. And that's going to lead to other lucrative deals. It's not like this is never going to repeat what happened this year because we're going to have at least 12 teams every year. And you might have somebody arguing about 12th versus 13th, 14th, who really, at that level, nobody's going to really care. No. So they're claiming it's about that. They just need a pretext to get into court. I haven't looked at their claim, but my guess is their claim is weak legally. It's all because of the money. We have 2 mega conferences now. The conferences are getting so big that half the teams won't play each other.
Yeah.
So it's like at some level, why not just put them all in one national college football thing?
Yeah, because you're already going away from the
division. The Big Ten has 20 schools now or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. I mean, they added Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA.
And there is no geographical locate anymore. You got Cal
Stanford's
and
in the ACC.
Yeah, going to the ACC. And that's okay for football.
Atlantic
Robert.
Coast Conference is now on the Pacific Coast.
And you can do that for football where you're traveling once a week. So, but what about like the volleyball team and the swim team and the thing, all these other teams that have to travel and spend? I mean, that's a lot of money. So you must be making quite a bit on that chunk to be able to afford that.
Oh, that's because of how. And that's the other irony here. This is all about men's football. Men's football brings in almost all the money. Men's basketball brings in a little bit, and all the rest of the sports lose money. If we had a
super conferences, they're going to just bring in more because we're getting Oregon, Ohio State now. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have a lot better games, a lot better matchups.
You really have 2 tiers now. I mean, the Big 12 is like a group of 5 conference. The Pac-12, the Pac-12 doesn't exist. Now,
hey, everyone was afraid to add my Cougs because listen, they know it's an easy win to play my Cougs, but they know the Cougs are good for one upset. Ohio State does not want to see the Cougars, all right? They do not want to see the Cougs because they will be that. If you're undefeated and you're playing the Cougs, they'll come in there and they'll whoop your ass, all right? They'll do it that one time, and they'll give me hope that we're a good team, and they'll go right down and lose to some Division II school that we shouldn't lose to. That's my Cougs. I hate them. I love them. I hate them.
No, where is Oregon State and Washington State? I know they got the Pac-12 money, so they got a little cash. But where are they? Is it going to be like an expanded Mountain West?
I think eventually they're gonna add people. They're keeping the Pac-12, so the Pac-12 is still a thing. They won their court case. They won their court case, so they get to keep it. They made an agreement for this next year to play 6 Mountain West teams. So their schedule this year is a joke. But I think eventually they're gonna pull after this. Well, things settle. I think they're gonna pull some teams in, and they're gonna revive the Pac-12.
Well, then probably the Mountain West is going to be dead.
Basically,
yeah.
That's I'm assuming, because Fresno State would make sense to add. San Diego State, Boise State, maybe Utah State, but definitely those.
State, yeah.
I think those quality second tier programs are already on the West Coast would be the ones to, and then you'd have a fun conference. I mean, because you look at the style of San Diego State historically, and Fresno State historically, and Boise State historically. Yeah. They fit into the kind of mindset of football loving programs that can overachieve, that can pull the big upsets, like Oregon State, like Washington State. That would be fun.
Well, since it doesn't matter where you're at in the country anymore, I mean, it'd be kind of fun to even see like a Houston and a Memphis join that or something like. I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, the Big 12. I think they got a good landing spot in the
Big 12.
Yeah, but I was just meaning in general.
But still, you're going to have. I mean, the ACC is borderline dropping into that same category. That you have basically 2 mega conferences, and then a bunch of Group of 5 conferences. I mean, the Sun Belt's become very competitive and a decent little program builder. That's. I see why Florida State wants it. I don't think they'll legally be able to get what they want unless they just try to create enough noise. But is the SEC going to take Florida State? I mean, are they taking anybody else? I mean,
see, you got to worry about like a lot of times a school like Florida that's already in the SEC. You got these in-state schools when they're both competing for the revenue. So a lot of times it's the other state school like Florida that has been an SEC original, an OG from forever. A lot of times they take into account what they say because they don't like splitting that revenue and stuff with another in-state school.
So actually, the most logical addition would be like the Big Ten, right?
I would think so. Then you got those Big Ten schools that don't want to lose that because they pretty much have, the upper echelon schools have a stronghold on the recruiting down in Florida right there for those. If you want to go to a Big Ten, now you give it up to a school like Florida State, they obviously immediately go above you in that recruiting. They have an advantage right there in that hotbed of recruiting talent.
Yep. Patriot 4165 makes a good point. He says ACC and AAC might as well merge. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, and, AAC.
So I guess the AAC. I mean, I guess the big ones are gone, right? SMU's gone now. Yeah. Houston's gone. Memphis gone. They're all going to be. Well, I guess Houston was already in the big. Yeah, UCF's already gone.
Yeah.
Now I think the Big 12 will be a more fun conference than people are giving. Texas kind of dominated it from a money perspective. That distorted all the way. I mean, the reason why Nebraska left was because they thought the refs favored Texas so much because Texas dominated the money.
Yeah.
And then Texas wasn't sharing anyway. They created their own little network.
They're not wrong.
Network,
Now, I mean, Texas and Oklahoma are going to struggle in the SEC. I mean, I think Texas is going to do well, but they're going to lose more games. I mean, the schedule. So
tougher schedule.
I mean, thank God for the 12-team playoff. That's the other thing they're not disclosing. This conference merger doesn't happen if they don't expand to a 12-team playoff.
Absolutely.
Because this schedule, nobody's going to come out undefeated anymore.
No.
These conferences. It's impossible.
Yeah, you would have never had these teams be willing to go and do that and play these schedules like this. Do you think we're already doing away with the divisions. Do you think we move to a point where maybe we do away with the conference?
That's my theory, is that outside of maintaining your rivalry, we just have one, we have kind of an elite group and then a good group and then an average group in terms of powerhouse programs. Yep. It just seems that way because the money isn't watching the big teams. I mean, this has almost happened in Europe where the elite programs try to create their own league, and there was enough rebellion that they decided to back off of it. But, it's all being driven by TV money, and that's been changing the game. So which way do you guys lean on Wisconsin LSU?
I think I maybe look at the under in this thing with the all the offensive talent being out. For obviously, Jaden Daniels is out. You got Braylon Allen out. You talk about Neighbors maybe not playing the whole game, just playing for. So I think I look at you got LSU's offensive coordinators moved on to Notre Dame now to take on the same role there. So you're going to have a new offensive coordinator, a new quarterback. I feel like you're not going to see these offenses click. And then Wisconsin struggled offensively all year long anyway. It was supposed to be one of their strong suits, bringing the Longo over for the coordinator from North Carolina. But I just don't know that we're going to see these offenses clicking on all cylinders today. I don't know why we would. So I think I look at the under. The line shrank up just a little bit. It was
early kickoff too, early.
Yeah,
9 a.m.
early kickoff. And so I don't know. I may look at the under right there. I think I might just stay away from this game. There's a lot of question marks right here. And there's another game, the Tennessee-Iowa game. That's what I want to get your opinion on that one, Uncle Bob, because I think that one's going under, but the line's creeped up a half point right there to 36.5. But I cannot bet an over in college football in the 30s. I can't do it. What do you think on this Tennessee-Iowa game? Break it down for us.
So, yeah, I mean, I think is that the second game up schedule-wise?
They both,
Oregon.
yeah. Well, they both
Oregon,
Liberty play at 1. Tennessee and Iowa both play at 1 too. Wisconsin, LSU at noon. So they both kick off.
Okay, all right. So we can cover Iowa, Tennessee, and then skip over to Liberty, Oregon. It's another I think the public slight leans towards Tennessee. It's very depending on the site and the time. I know that Tennessee. I was surprised this line moved on the news of Joe Milton because if you watch Tennessee for the last 2 years, you would know that Joe Milton last 3 years, you would know that Joe Milton's not that
not
good.
the guy.
Yeah, and so I was talking to my daughter's boyfriend who's a big Tennessee fan, and he said Milton just drove him crazy. He's like, oh, he's going to do this now, and especially against Iowa. I wouldn't have touched Tennessee with a 10-foot pole with Joe Milton because he's a mistake machine against a team like Iowa that their entire defense is to trap you into making a mistake. They're not like an old school Big Ten defense that just, shuts down the run and has speed. No, they're a zone-driven defense that's about getting you to make mistakes, preventing big plays, making you earn it on the ground. But as a run defense, they're good, but they're really not super. They've never been that good. Super elite. They're not one of those take away the run no matter what defenses, like your old Wisconsin defenses and old Michigan defenses and so forth. So the key here is, can Tennessee score? Iowa, I know Tennessee you look at transfers and opt-outs. Iowa hasn't had any of consequence that I know of.
No.
Tennessee has had. I mean, you have the quarterback, but I think that's an upgrade because for those that don't know, the Tennessee quarterback was one of the top recruits in the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
He's designed to play in the system. He's a physical freak, an elite 5-star, and he's a guy that Tennessee got because of NIL money. Without NIL money, we don't get him.
Nope.
And he's a guy that a lot of Tennessee fans have been waiting to see. That once this season was kind of a lost season, there were some more than a few fans who wanted to see him earlier rather than later anyway. So Joe Milton here's the reality. Joe Milton isn't opting out because he's a first round pick, because he's not. He's opting out because he doesn't want the Iowa film tape on his NFL scout review.
I've even heard they told him that they were going to use him as a backup role and kind of give it to Nico. And I think that's kind of what pushed him toward opting out, that he's like, no, I'm not going to do that, man.
Well, if you were his agent, wouldn't you tell him, opt out for the love of God? Don't give the Iowa game tape out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do not go play that top 5 defense. Don't do that, Joe.
Especially a defense that plays an NFL style and it's pass defense. It's all about tricking you. And those people would have a tape that scouts would be like, whoa, because otherwise scouts are going to fall in love with Milton. Despite his stats, because look at that big arm, he's big and physical. All the stats they love about quarterbacks that year after year get them into trouble in the NFL. You would think they kind of, yes, there's a Josh Allen, but for every Josh Allen, there's 5 busts.
There's the same reason Anthony Richardson opted out against Oregon State last year in that bowl game. He knew that defense was nasty.
Exactly, and smart move. It got him the top 5 pick that I thought he had no business getting whatsoever. So I think. I think Tennessee is better with Nico at quarterback, even though he's a true freshman. But plus he's getting, this is a bowl game. This isn't a one-off. He gets 3 weeks to prepare. This is the beginning of 2024 season for Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And this is a great test for him. This is a great use of the bowl game by Tennessee. This is Tennessee saying our key to next year is this quarterback success. Let's get 3 weeks of bowl practices, which is like a whole fall camp all over again, which people tend to forget about these bowl games, about why the regular season schedule isn't that predictive of bowl performance because this is basically the start of a new season. And so I think and that means Tennessee's invested in the outcome of this game. They want him to do well. They want the offense to do well. They want the team to have confidence. On the flip side, where the big transfers have happened is on Tennessee's defense, and opt-outs is on Tennessee's defense.
Yeah.
I don't know what Ole Miss is paying people down there in Oxford.
Right.
But they've stolen the best defensive
It doesn't matter how many defensive players are out for Tennessee. If you've watched college football all year long, go under on Iowa games. Like 81% of the money is on the under in this game, as we're seeing right here. And as it should be, because Iowa cannot score. They even give their offensive coordinator an incentive in his contract to score 24 points per game this season, and they get half of that, barely. And then I don't know who is on the sharp side of over in this game, but there's some sharp action coming here on over. You've got to have some big balls if you're betting over in an Iowa game. That's all I'm saying. I mean, good luck to you.
Well,
it looks like they're a real good community college on Iowa unders, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, Cricket was talking about, it made good money just betting Iowa under. I mean, and arguably
every week on here, he'd say, "I'm just going to go under in this game. I don't care what happens. I'm going under. It's 20. It's 28. I don't care. Going under. Guess what?
I went under the 24.5 and then doubled down on it when they scored. It was 10-7 the first quarter and going under 30.5, and they still didn't get over the original number.
I would say if you like a side in this game, now that you can do at a lot of places same game parlays, or you can even do a same game teaser if you like that. I see this as a highly correlated event. So in other words, if Iowa covers or wins, highly likely it goes under. It's because their defense dominates and Nico doesn't adjust offensively with the new quarterback for Tennessee. If Tennessee wins, I mean, I can still see it going under, but that's the only way it goes over. And as if you like the over, you should probably link it with Tennessee because that's how that's happening. And because I agree with you. I was going to say normally it'd be a problem losing one of your best defensive linemen, losing a bunch of defensive backs. But if there was any team to lose your pass defense against, it's Iowa because they can't pass the ball. They are literally the most atrocious offense I have seen of any program that got to a New Year's Day bowl.
They've been shut out twice and scored fewer than 20 points 9 times this year.
And it doesn't matter who they were playing. In other words, I mean, they could play a defense that's top 40 and they were horrible. They could play a defense that's bottom 40 and they're still horrible.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that's tricky with bowl games is figuring out scale. That unlike the NFL or the NBA or a lot of other sports, there's not enough competition between conferences to know how well the data scales between the two. That's one issue. The second issue is how do teams scale up and down? And this is a shout out to the college football nerds. They did a nice breakdown of the games. They do their own model, which is really cool. But they pointed this out before the Oregon-Washington game. I frankly should have listened to it more. I listened to it. I was like, okay, yeah, maybe. But they were dead right. What their point was Oregon doesn't scale well. It scales well down. It doesn't scale well up. And they explained scheme-wise why that was. And so with Iowa, the question to me is how well do they scale when they play a more explosive offense? And in conference play, Iowa has generally scaled well, even against better quality competition. In bowl games, it's been hit or miss. So about a third of the time, their defense scales well in a bowl game. About 2/3 of the time, it doesn't. Now, usually that's because of major talent gaps. In other words, they hit a team that can just run by them, run past them, run over them. And all the scheming in the world doesn't save you when that talent gap shows up, and that's that level. When that opposing team has had more than a week to prepare. And so that's only way I can see this game going over. Iowa's offense is not making this game go over. I mean, that'd be the shock of the world to me. Yeah. If Iowa scores more than 20 points in this game. Because Tennessee's run defense is still fine. The guys they lost are all pass defensive guys. Iowa just can't throw unless they magically discovered something in bowl practices. And that, linebacker, that little baby Lorenzen kind of guy can all of a sudden suddenly discover how to throw the ball. But they don't even have the receivers really for it. I mean, it's just not – they've never been well suited for it. But the difference is they used to at least have power offenses and a couple of good – they're still good. They could get special team scores, I guess. That's where
they don't have a single player with 30 receptions or 300 yards receiving. Not a single player.
It's like that most atrocious offensive profile. I mean, you just look at a sort of statistical rating. Tennessee ends up from a yard per play perspective about 14 points better than average. I was dead on average despite having a top 10 defense because their offense is in the bottom 5 in almost every single statistical category.
Yeah.
And so I can't see them scoring. And we have seen Tennessee and Iowa play each other a couple of years ago. Tennessee blew the doors off of them. And that was another Iowa team that
I believe.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa came in as also again top. They've almost always been a top 20 defense, and yet they could do nothing to stop Tennessee, and that's because and by the way, that will tell you a lot. If early today you see Tennessee put up points on Iowa with a freshman quarterback, that should tell you a lot about that Michigan-Alabama game coming up.
Right, we've already seen little prelude.
Exactly, we've already seen little glimpses of Penn State not looking good. Great Penn State defense. Not against Ole Miss, it wasn't.
No.
And
Big Ten hasn't looked good in general. I mean, you had like one win.
Maryland is the only legitimate performer. I mean, Rutgers to a degree, but that's against Cristobal. God knows.
Ohio State was disgusting.
Oh, I mean, I'll give credit to the defense. Defense hung in there, but that offense was awful. Against a Missouri defense, it's not that talented. That same Missouri defense needed miracles to survive against a backup quarterback for a Florida team that couldn't even qualify for a bowl game.
Gave up 30 points to that team.
Yes, and yet Ohio State can only manage 3.
Yeah,
I hate the people that make the argument of Alabama needed a miracle to beat Auburn. I'm like, but you are totally ignoring the fact that Alabama just beat the best team in Georgia over the last 3 years. They beat them. You're going to ignore that fact, but you're going to tell me, they needed a miracle against Auburn in a rivalry game, which is always crazy. Anything can happen in those games.
It's part of the misleading narrative of bowl games and postseason play is they get caught up with isolated examples during the schedule, rather than look at what's the talent differential between these teams, what's the scheme matchup between these teams, what's the coaching matchup between these teams. Because, again, it's really like a new season. They're getting a whole fall practice. So they get, whoever's good, ready. They get a lot of people healthy. If they had key injuries through the season, they're out of luck, like Michigan on its offensive line.
So coaching matters too. Like if I'm going to have a team that needs to be focused and prepared after taking a month off, I want Saban there, keeping them dialed in. Like that guy's proven it time and time again.
You give talent plus time equals victory in playoff games and more often than not in bowl games. The X factor with bowl games is if it's not a BCS game, are there a bunch of opt-outs? Does the team really care, et cetera? That becomes a variable. But other than that variable, you see what happens when you just let talent and time combine and you see Georgia, Florida State. Florida State a lot of opt-outs, but not 60 points worth of opt-outs.
No, and a lot of the times when it doesn't matter, like you're saying, when it's not a playoff game or anything, a lot of these coaches will take the bowl game to like see what they have for next year. So they'll maybe play some players that they normally wouldn't to see, it's just like it's basically a spring training game to them, get ahead on next year. I'm just glad there's a bunch of people that like Michigan because they're keeping the line in favor of Alabama. Like we're getting Alabama as a dog. And as Heavy Step said earlier, how often do you get Alabama as a dog? And anytime you get Alabama as a dog, just say thank you and take it.
Well, particularly I would call your YouTuber handicappers are almost all in Michigan. Wager Talk, almost all in Michigan. Action Network, almost all in Michigan. Now, not
the first argument's Auburn. They barely beat Auburn, and I'm like, okay, well, if that's your first argument, I know not to trust anything you say. Thank you.
The Iron Bowl's different. Weird shit happens in the Iron Bowl.
If we look at PFF grades, Iowa's defense is rated. Every player is rated very high, so it's not flukish. The X factor, what I don't know is two things: given time, how well will Iowa's defense scale? Secondly, how well will the true freshman quarterback perform for Tennessee, also given time with Heupel to prepare for Iowa? And what I have confidence in is that Iowa's offense is so bad, they're going to struggle to score more than 17 points, even with some special teams and defensive help. Well, so they would need lots of special teams or defensive help to get over that margin. So once Tennessee slipped under a touchdown, I definitely lean Tennessee in this game because I think I could see I see the game as like 20-10, something like that. And that was, much easier than, or 23-13. I think Tennessee will be, if you understand Iowa doesn't shut down run games entirely, that means Tennessee can run the ball.
Mhm.
But I think Nico, we're going to see if Nico's legit. Basically, if you're betting on Tennessee in this game, you're betting on the true freshman quarterback living up to the hype, especially given that Heupel's had 3 weeks to prepare him, as well as just that Iowa's offense stinks. If you're betting Iowa, you're really betting that, hey, low-scoring games tend to be close margins. You would have already lost the better end of that number because it was 8 to start. But you're also just betting on a true freshman QB isn't really ready to play that Iowa defense.
Yep.
And the only caveat to those people betting that way I would put out there is a lot of great Iowa defenses have gone in to face the SEC. And while there's some games where they've played well, more often than not, they've struggled against teams that had more talent offensively than they did in a bowl game.
Yeah, I the way I look at this, how I probably will approach this and bet it, I probably do what you're talking about teasing. I'd probably tease Iowa up with the under and then also play Tennessee on the spread and parlay it with the under. Because I think Tennessee could cover this game and it still go under.
Oh, definitely. In the under. My view is the way I see this, the combinations, if you like Iowa, you like under. If you like Tennessee, you can like under or over. My argument is only that if you like the over, you probably want to go with Tennessee.
Yep.
We'll talk about the top 2 running backs. You got Jalen Wright and Jabari Smalls are good. They opted out, but Dylan Sampson has got plenty of carries. He's actually led the team in touchdowns. He got a team high 8 total touchdowns. So, I mean, he's a guy very capable of stepping in. He's going to be the main back now, probably chip on his shoulder. So, I mean, you're not losing a whole lot there.
Especially if you understand Tennessee's offensive schemes.
Yeah.
Tennessee's offensive scheme primarily needs talent at quarterback. It can make a lot of wide receivers look good. Guys like Squirrel look good. You're doing something. And it can make a lot of running backs look good. And this goes all the way back to Heupel no matter where he's been. The running backs and wide receivers he makes look a lot better. Now, when he has really good ones, he can take the lid off. But those guys, the replacement, the drop-off and replacement value isn't that big. The big one with Tennessee under Heupel will always be the quarterback. Yep. If there's a big quarterback drop-off, then you can be in trouble. But quite frankly, I see this as an upgrade over Joe Milton, having Nico play.
What's going on, Chris?
I mean, it's my hero, Robert Barnes. And I literally just got done listening to your Hillsdale's college speech.
Cool.
This morning, which I listen to at least once every week. Phenomenal. Gets me charged up on Sundays and Mondays usually. How's everybody doing?
Good, brother.
Good, buddy. How are you?
Year, sir.
Phenomenal. I woke up. I was like, is that the great Robert Barnes? I always pick on cricket. I'm like, maybe someday you're going to have to introduce me to him. Like, when somebody knows a celebrity, you always kind of try to grab on their shoulders a little bit. Hey, and I was like, he's here. Holy shit. How are you?
Oh, good. I mean, and I think it's great to see the success. Remember when you guys started out, Will, and to see Rumble be a good platform for getting a lot of this new content out there. If Rumble's going to be successful, they really need to diversify their content portfolio. Need to be more than just the independent political speech area. Need to have entertainment value, need to have sports value, need to have all of those components. And so it's important that programs like this reach critical mass, get benefits. Also that Rumble continues to work to monetize the value of this content, given the viewership numbers and the rest. So it's great to participate in this. And in Sports Picks has been fun so far. So, we've been on the we've had great 5% plays have been on a wild run.
Ooh,
this is what happens when Robert gives a 5% play.
This motherfucker don't miss.
No, he's fucking good.
That motherfucker don't miss, man.
Exactly.
They don't miss. They don't miss.
And I got some big 5% plays on games to date.
Yes,
so we'll see how all that translates. But
it was actually, what's funny, Robert? It was actually the reason why I started uploading when I started doing all this and doing podcasting. It was actually Viva that convinced me to go over to Rumble. I was watching you guys' show and he talked about Rumble and how he's like, you just make videos and you just upload them everywhere. Upload them to this place called Rumble or whatnot. So I checked it out and I'm like, oh, we got something going here. And I was like, well, let's see what happens. And now we're kind of all in. And the fact that Rumble did that small creator partner program, that was so cool. The fact that, we went all in on it. We gave everything we could. I think we only missed 2 days out of the 30 days. We were only required to do 5 days a week, but we tried to do every single day we could. But the fact that they gave small creators a chance and a platform is that's all you ask for on the internet.
Absolutely.
You just need eyeballs. From there, it's our job to keep people around. You know what I mean? And
Engaged.
I think we've built something good here. I mean, where else can you get? I had the Rumble CEO comment on a tweet, and I didn't even tag him or Rumble in it. He commented on one of my tweets. I'm like, I don't see that from YouTube or anything like that. That's crazy.
They take good care of us. They do take good care of us.
Yeah, it's been great to see. I mean,
if all you have is go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say if YouTube was what we had, we're all done.
Oh, completely.
The only reason why I bought microphones and started to play around was because of Rumble. Like there was a shot there.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember we looked at it years ago, and I was looking at putting stuff up, a predecessor to Sports Picks, before locals existed either, and my nephew Cody was looking up. We recorded some videos. They would have been huge winners right before March Madness, by the way. It was a little system that I stumbled across that ended up being like crazy profitable. We got 2 views because YouTube, if you don't show up in an algorithm, you don't exist.
Yeah.
And there's no obviously tie-in to something like locals that Rumble has.
You get copyrighted.
Exactly. You have the Game On locals community, the Sports Picks locals community, that really enhances the value. It's easy for people to join. You can join for free. You know, if you want the inside information, the picks, then that's a subscription based, which is still by far we are so much cheaper than everybody else.
You get on like the Fat Jack. And I know him really well. He's from Oklahoma and he's a handicapper. That's an enormous amount of money just for a weekend.
Oh, completely. I mean,
probably
the average
$3,500.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the big guys are cost crazy amounts.
Yeah.
Even guys that try to make it more accessible, say Bill Krackomberger, his Crack Wins app, that's $600 a month.
Yeah.
The guys over at Wager Talk, almost everybody's $100 a month. And not only that, they give out, the average handicapper gives out 5 picks on a weekend, 20 picks over an entire month. We give out hundreds of picks. Like the average value of our picks is less than $1 a pick. And you're not going to find many handicappers anywhere that have had the success rate we've had, and not only the success rate we've had, but across multiple sports that are not just your BSers.
You can get Cricket's MLB picks for free on here, and you just know to fade them, and they're winners.
The other way.
Yeah.
He had a streak, Robert. He had a streak in the summer. Oh my God, it was so great. He gave out a 3-leg parlay every day on our show. And if you faded it, you would have hit it 5 times in a matter of 2 weeks.
Yeah. We called it.
You know how much money that is with a 3-leg parlay fading?
Cricket's daily fader. I was on fire. Yeah. Well, if I could give you an MLB pick, just go the other way, and it's money.
It was great.
Well, it was this year because of other members of the board, which is part of the nice thing with Rumble. The nice thing with locals is I had an idea in the back of my head, but had sort of buried it, not thought about it for long, about the utility of teasers. And I'd seen all this.
I love teasers.
Because the conventional wisdom out there is that teasers are only good on point spreads in the NFL in select situations.
If you do the Wong theory, which I disagree with.
Completely. And I remember years ago thinking that I was like, it always, like one way I tracked the success of my picks was, if I'm winning big and losing close, then I'm probably on the right side. The logic being that if I think the spread should be 3 to 4 points different than where Vegas has it, when I win, when the luck is on my side or the luck is neutral, I should win by that bigger margin or even better. Whereas when I lose, it's often going to be because luck is against me, and then I should lose narrowly. That's the classic teaser pattern, because then you should win a lot of the teasers, because when you lose, you're losing within 6 points or 7 points, as the case may be. Well, in the year, somebody in the live chat, because we have these open live chats right now. I think I'll just leave it open all year. I was just opening them up for the weekend, but now I just think I'm gonna leave it open. We left it open throughout the holidays. But one of them was they were teasing, and like they did a $25 like 15-team teaser. It hit. Everyone hit, and so they won like 20 grand, 30, whatever it was. Like, I should pay attention to this. And then, later in the year, there was like 1 week we went 29-1 if you would have done round robin teasers. Yep. I mean it was crazy, and I was like, all this conventional wisdom out there that says you can't. The other thing that it dawned on me when I was listening to it, I was like, one, there definitely could be scenarios where teasers are profitable in these situations, But the other is if they were right that teasers are never profitable in anything other than NFL spreads around key numbers with low totals, which is pretty much the Wong factoring, then that means their alt lines are wrong because they're pricing these things as if the differential exists, whether it's NFL, NBA, college basketball, NFL, college football. They're saying that the difference between 1 and 6 points is going to be, say, minus 200. And 1 in 10 points is going to be minus 300. And if you want to buy points, you have to pay that price. If you look at the money line correspondence to that, because what you hear in all the arguments against teasers is there's too much variability and there's not as much key numbers. Well, it's like if there's so much variability, then there's real profit to make on the other side of an alt line. In other words, take the team that's favored. Do the plus 200 play, especially places like FanDuel now. Like I didn't even realize it until I was here back in Tennessee. I mean, all your betting options are better outside of Vegas than they are in Vegas right now.
Okay.
Which is utterly insane. But like at places like FanDuel, you can go up to like 20 points off the line. Think about like you could do like you probably could have got Georgia minus 40 at like plus 600.
Someone posted Robert. Someone posted a ticket. It was plus 1,600 that they had Georgia minus 40.
Yeah, well, there it was, and boom, and it cashed. It cashed easy. It was cashed in the first half. So
It's crazy.
So you look at these. It's learning the. One of the things I always recommend to people about sports betting is that it creates emotional discipline if you do it well. It requires you to develop objective thinking because if you're going to analyze your own team, whether to bet for or against. But the other thing it does is it gives you opportunities to identify market inefficiencies and logical deficiencies. Where are people missing something? Where, like years ago, I had a horrible NFL season. Turned out Sharp Money had a same horrible NFL season, and I got so frustrated at one point. I was telling somebody, I was like, these defenses are so erratic now in the NFL. It's like they're unpredictable. And then it clicked. I was like, their actual unpredictable is itself a predictable phenomenon. What if I just took all the NFL defenses and just assumed they were all going to revert to the mean by the end of the year, not give them any different valuation? From that power rating system, I made profits on the NFL for like 6 years straight because I just completely ignored defenses. Now I adjust some because of the way the league is evolving, but it was an example where if you think something through, there's like it cannot be both true that teasers outside of the NFL point spreads are always bad, and it be true that their money lines and alt lines are correctly priced. One of those things is market inefficient.
Yeah.
What I love with teasers, well, first of all, teasers, if they aren't profitable, then why is Vegas every year? You used to get plus money on a teaser, and now most books you lay minus 120. There's a reason why they're adjusting that.
Minus 130, minus 140.
Yeah, in Vegas, it's terrible. You can't find it, I guess, in Vegas, from what I hear, a minus 120 on it. My book still does minus 110 on most of mine,
outside of the NFL, where they don't recognize the value. Like I've made money on NBA teasers. I've made money on college basketball teasers already this year. And in college, there was a Saturday in bowl season where I think we went 7-0, and I forgot to tease them. And I was like, it would have been an easy, that would have had all kinds of profits. I forgot to do the money lines. Historically, money lines are profitable in bowl season, especially underdog money lines. But
I love teasing so the way I do teasers, I like 3-leg teasers because you only have to hit 40% to be profitable.
Right.
And what I do is with the NFL specifically is I'll tie, like say the morning games, I'll pick my favorite 2 out of that, and then I'll tie it to an afternoon game, because then if those 2 legs hit and I got plus 160 coming on that last leg, and then I'll tease it the other way if I really like the other side and get like a nice little middle spot and tease it to like the Sunday night game or Monday night game or something like that, or a total. I like kind of playing. I mean, you can get burned by it, but I've had a lot of success actually hitting those middle spots and cashing both tickets.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's a smart way to do it. And I think there's probably my other logic with teasers is I try to only tease when the teams are of comparable ability or talent. That I've found that there's greater variability in teams where there's a talent disparity or capability between the teams. But the other factor is also but especially now, the other thing I would recommend people look at is with these places like FanDuel that have all these alt lines, maybe you get a little better value when you're just making sure you're around that key number. So, like, let's say they're at, if they're at 3.5, maybe you just tease up to 7.5 effectively with an alt line rather than all the way up to 9.5. Given 8 and 9 are mostly dead numbers in the NFL and most in college football for the most part. I mean, not entirely, but relatively. But I got the leading. I mean, speaking of what would be an interesting teaser number, but I'd probably stay away from it, though it's a little bit tempting because I like teasing also good offenses as underdogs because there's so many different ways that they can come back. Now, the only thing with Oregon, and to look at the Oregon Liberty game, if you're betting Oregon, you're betting on them scaling well against weaker opponents, which they've done now for 2 straight years. Whenever they faced weaker opponents, they can't defend them at all, and their defense steps up, and they blow teams out. And that's the reason why that spread is 17, 18 points.
Well, and Bo Nix is buying in. I feel like if you're wondering if they're going to be motivated, well, the fact that Bo Nix is playing, you got to think that those guys are motivated to go get a win.
Yeah, and I think Troy Franklin is the main guy that's out, but they still have a lot of speed, skill guys, still have a lot of quality defensive guys. So if you're looking at Oregon, you're looking at scale, that they scale well against weaker, lesser talented competition, that Bo Nix is there. There aren't a lot of big opt-outs, that they're going to run up the score. If you're betting Liberty, you're betting Jamie Chadwell. You're betting an undefeated team that has, every motivation in the world playing in a New Year's Day bowl game. So there won't be a bold motivational deficiency on Liberty's side. No major opt-outs or transfers that I'm aware of on the Liberty side. That are consequential. A team that can definitely score points. Chadwell's teams from Coastal Carolina, just like this year, Liberty have always scored points. And that you're betting that they'll scale okay, and that they'll stay in the game, and that they can score points at any time, and that means they can backdoor a big number. But if you're teasing them, you could tease them over 24 at this point. A 7-point teaser, you could get it like 25 points, 24.5, depending on where you're getting the line currently. And so you could see it that way. I thought that I would lean over in the game if I were to bet a total, because it's just, I don't see Oregon completely shutting down Liberty offense, even though we don't know a lot with Liberty in the sense that Liberty didn't play hardly anybody that was of higher quality competition. So there is that limitation on them. And we saw how New Mexico State performed in the bowl game. When they had to step up in class against Fresno, did not look pretty. So that's the X factor with Liberty. The thing is if you're looking at it from a situational side perspective, teams coming off a title loss tend to perform very poorly in bowl games, because for all the talk, they can't get over the fact that they blew a big chance, and that psychological drag tends to linger. The second situation that would favor Oregon in the game, the really high-scoring offenses tend to underachieve, but that fits both of these teams, so that's kind of neutral. Liberty's defense statistically is okay, so it doesn't fit into any weakness there, nor does Oregon. But big favorites tend to be money losers in bowl games. I think going on 15 years, I want to say. It's only double-digit favorites have been bad. Big favorites even worse, excluding what Georgia did to Florida State.
Yeah. Everything inside me wants to take Oregon, but I got in the back of my mind like that USC game last year, the UCF game when they played Auburn, all these people giving them no chance in the world, and then they come out and they wind up winning the game straight up or something.
Let's be honest, Cricket. You've got the Liberty Mutual thing in the commercial in your background. The Liberty Bibbity. That's what's keeping you on.
Liberty, baby. I don't know, man. I'm going over in this thing. The line's already gone up. It was a 60.5 when we started the show. It's already gone up to 70. I think there's going to be some points in this game today. Yeah, it's all the way up to 70 now. So,
I mean, if you're betting Oregon, I would definitely take the over.
Yeah,
I could easily imagine in the same with Liberty. I mean, that's one way I evaluate the over/under is like, okay, if you're looking at which team you think is going to cover, which way do you think the total is going to go? With Liberty, it's because they score. With Oregon, it's because they keep scoring and don't stop scoring.
Yeah,
and so both of those things do point towards the over. And there's the history of college football bowls. Really low totals tend to still go under. Really high totals tend to still go over. It's because
I got burned by that like a couple years back, Burrow's year when they played Ohio State, and it was opened up like 76, and I go, there's no way. And I bet under like weeks before that. And then,
for
what is
100
it?
in that game.
Yeah, it was like 30, 35, whatever at half. And I'm like, holy, I got that one wrong.
Yep.
Yeah,
They're
that was
that high, man. They're that high for a reason.
well, and go and so yeah, I could see the overside. You guys have any sense on the side? I mean, I lean Liberty, just because of how big the margin is, because they can score points, because the public is fading them. So
That feels like a lot of points.
Yeah, I mean, once you're over 17, you got an offense that can score at any given moment. Yes, it's they're scaling up, so maybe it won't scale up against Oregon. I think if you're betting Oregon, you're thinking about that Colorado game. That's the game you're thinking about.
This is still
That's
a team
what
that
has
lost
me
a
leaning
football game this year.
towards Oregon. I lean towards Oregon. If I had to bet it, I'm going to stay away. But if I had to bet it, I'd lean towards Oregon, just because also you got the Bo Nix, lost the Heisman just because he played an extra game or whatnot. Maybe he wants this is him to audition to for the NFL, right? I mean, it's just what has me not betting it is like Oregon's defense has been so good. I've been touting their defense all year long. Are they motivated in this game? I don't know.
Yeah, that's usually the bowl, the title game loss hangover effect is that they don't come out to play as well.
Well, you talk about motivation. Liberty been sitting around for 3-4 weeks now too, hearing how they're 3 touchdown dogs. They're like, hey, we hadn't lost a football game this year. I know we haven't played the caliber of schedule that Oregon has, but hey, we're pretty good at this game too. So you got all those kids sitting around there listening to that stuff. They don't have any major opt-outs. So they come out with a little bit of chip on their shoulder too.
We've been talking about that all bowl season, though. You could be motivated as hell as you want, but if you don't have the players to do it, good luck.
But that's what I'm saying. They probably do. You got to have talent
to Oregon, though.
Undefeated. You got to have talent to get undefeated. Should Tulane have had the talent to beat USC last year? Should that UCF team have had the talent to beat that Auburn team that year? I mean, there's always these little
my Cougs beat USC that year too. So let's not. They're terrible.
All right. And that was their upset, man. That was their upset for that year. But yeah, it just feels weird to me. I feel like I've been bit by these before. It's my only thing why I'm scared of Oregon.
That's why I'm staying away. I'm out.
Yeah, and I can see. Now, what do you guys think? I see Bo Nix as maybe a backup in the NFL.
I think he's a good backup.
I can't see him as a starter.
I've seen a lot of quarterbacks this year that there ain't no way he can be worse than they are.
Yeah, well, this year ridiculous. I mean, I don't know how what's his name for the Giants? I don't know how DeVito made it on a roster. Least of all, started the game.
Nix might.
I don't know how DeVito turned down $10,000 from a pizza place because he thought he was good or something. His agent's like, "No, it's gonna be $20,000 now." What pizza place? I don't care where you're at can afford $20,000 for a weekend.
That's what I'm thinking for Danny DeVito's nephew or whoever it is. Man, are you kidding me?
I mean,
he's got name recognition. DeVito. It sounds good. It doesn't play good, but it sounds good.
I mean, for his agent and marketing, absolutely, especially in New York. Italian coming out of nowhere and doing well, and it's like perfect marketing for New York. But I mean, that guy,
he can't play football.
Hey, I'll give him props. So he still went to that place for free. That was pretty cool. That he still his agent screwed it up, but he still went there for free. I don't know if you saw the video. We played it on here, Robert. He actually they make old school sodas. It was pretty cool. Like they do different flavoring and put the carbonation and syrup and stir it or whatever.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Steps, what were you going to say? Buddy? I know you had something to say there.
Do what?
You had something to say there. You were going to say something. I don't know what it was.
Oh, I don't remember.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, let's get to the big games. We talked about all these other games. Let's talk about the games that really matter today. We'll get he had to step away for just a second, but go ahead. When do you guys lay it on me here? Who y'all taking today? Y'all know who me and Will are taking. We've been beating our chest about this for a month now. How you feel about the Alabama-Michigan game today, Chris?
I think that's too easy. I got it a long time ago at Alabama +1, and I put a bunch of money on it then. So I'll just I'll ride with it. I like it. I like Texas and Alabama tonight.
Okay, you're on Texas. I think Buku's a little bit. He's on Washington. I heard y'all talking about a little bit from the side there. I don't know. I think I'm going to go under. I'm going under in that Texas-Washington game. That's probably going to be my play in that one. I thought I loved Texas there, but I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to bet against Michael.
Do you think it's going to be like last year where everyone thought Texas-Washington was going to go over and it went way under?
I do.
Even though all those yards that piled up?
I think you're expecting a whole lot of points out of this, and you got the jitter factor and all that stuff coming into games like this where teams tend to start a little slow. You've been off the field for a few weeks now, so it's kind of you got to get back to clicking, get used to playing that game atmosphere. And with so much on the line right here, you usually see these offenses start it's a lot easier for the defense to transition than it is the offense in these spots, I feel like. But we'll get Robert's opinion on this. Let's talk about Alabama, Michigan first, because that's the first one. Give us
I
the
want to ask
breakdown,
Robert. Robert, I got a 20-1. So after Alabama lost to Texas, I bet them to win the national championship, knowing that it was probably going to come down to they obviously needed to beat Georgia in the SEC championship. And so once I got past that, now I got a 21 ticket on Alabama. How good is my ticket looking, in your opinion, here with their matchups going through these playoffs?
Well, I mean, just looking at the valuation of the market, it's 2-1 now. So you've got a 10x ratio. 10x. If you sold it now in the market, you get 10x. And so there'd be some temptation. You could always hedge by taking the other teams. I wouldn't waste my time on Washington. It would just be Texas and and Michigan. So yeah, I mean, in fact, I should have thought of that. When Alabama lost, I was like, this is your classic early season loss.
And Saban's teams always get better as the year goes on, right?
Completely. And I mean, the other thing is after Texas lost to Oklahoma, I should have bought a ticket. Because of that related dynamic. Texas beating Alabama is the only reason they're in the playoff. Because if they don't beat Alabama, they keep Florida State in because they don't have to keep Alabama out, and they don't have to put Texas in because Texas beat Alabama. Because they had to put Alabama in, then they had to put Texas in and be given the dynamic. You look at the BCS games history, playoff history. We've got the BCS game itself, which has about 16, 17 years of history with just the title game. And then we got another almost decade of playoff games, I think. When the first one, 14 or 13, 14, I think maybe.
Yeah, I think it was 14.
So if you look at that history of combined BCS games and title games, the playoffs of both, when a team has had, and you don't look at the second game. You only look at the game where the teams had plenty of time to prepare, not the short, just the 1 week turnaround games. It has been extraordinary how predictive. Like my handicap is very simple for those games. It's talent. And now there's lots of ways to measure talent. You can measure talent by looking at 24/7's team composite recruiting rankings. You can look at Phil Steele's magazine, which does his own version of aggregate rankings. You can go to your own combined sources out there. You can do your own subjective analysis based on what you've seen from the individual players. You can go to PFF, Pro Football Focus, and look at their grades. They grade every single player in college football. You can go to various mock draft boards and see where our players projected this year. And now these days, there's people who have mock draft boards for next year already up for the top 100 picks at least. And there you get a lot of third-party opinions to go with it. And you can look at how predictive those third-party opinions have been over that time period. And historically, the more talented team wins overwhelmingly. In fact, when there's been like a two-tiered talent difference, like in other words, at least a 10 or more gap in the talent and the recruiting rankings, 10 or more players projected to go to the NFL from one team than the other by mock draft boards or other methods of talent analysis. Those teams have never lost in this situation in the both season. And their average, and they have never won by less than 10 points. And you can see why, like, this was the core to my college football handicapping all the way back to when I was a kid. Because I was trying to figure stuff out. I actually started out as a Michigan fan. My dad lived in Michigan for about a decade. He loved Michigan football. So I grew up as a kid, initially as a Michigan fan, though I lived in Tennessee. And then when I became a bit of a Tennessee fan, like a lot of Tennessee fans can remember this, of the Gen X generation, when they beat Miami in the Sugar Bowl 35-7 after 1985. I remember watching that game live on our little, 19-inch TV in the den and just cheering it all the way through. But I became a real Tennessee fan when this will probably upset some Tennessee fans, but once the drunk Johnny Majors was gone, and the legend Phil Fulmer came to town, and he had already boosted Tennessee by being the recruiting and offensive coordinator in 89, 90, 91. Takes over part of the job in 92. I became a huge fan, and he was amazing. But during that time period, I was starting to look at betting, and I was, trying to figure different angles out. And what became critical was how much talent played a role. Years ago, there were some Florida State engineering nerds that were trying to figure out whether recruits, They were like, these recruits say A, B, and C matters to them, but it doesn't seem to translate to where they really go. And they decided, are there some objective factors we can use to predict where a player is going to go, more so than the player's own self-description of where he's going to go, more so than recruiting analysts and crystal balls say they're going to go. And they came up with a system that was much more predictive than all of them, that today's 24/7 crystal ball actually heavily utilizes their old algorithm. And it's heavily predicated on how close you are to mama's cooking or grandma's cooking. If you're a half day's drive, then you're in the game. And then it's about brand name, and then about style, scheme, coach, likability, etc. But the big factor is a premier brand name within a half day's drive of campus. Now, if those programs have really poor coaches and recruiters, that's when those players can be poached. And between the 80s and the 90s, you had Texas down for big periods, USC down for big periods, Ohio State down for periods. You had Miami down for big periods. We got on probation. Not a coincidence.
Lake in Oklahoma.
Oh, completely. And you look at, when Barry Switzer's doing great at Oklahoma, he kept saying it when he beat Tom Osborne all those years.
Yep.
He was like, it's just talent. He's like, the guy's a great coach. I'm not a better coach than Tom Osborne. I have more talent. Ask Nick Saban. Nick Saban was on with Pat McAfee. They're like, what's your secret? He's like, I found out I'm not a good coach unless I have got the best talent. He goes, I have the best talent. Suddenly I'm the greatest coach in the world. And he was making, he'd be blunt about it. And you look at that. So I look at these games, and almost every other handicapper you hear out there, Wager Talk, Action Network, Odds Checker, almost none of them even mention the word talent in talking about these BCS playoff games.
You say that. Look at, here on the Action Network, I like pulling this up because I think they make it look pretty and it looks nice. And but I don't always agree when they have, as we found out through doing the show, like just because there's sharp action on one side or they say there's money on one side, we can't really trust action on this stuff. But like, I see sharp action on Michigan. I have not one handicapper that I respect, that I follow. I have not heard one person say they like Michigan today. I have not heard one. So I don't know where they're getting the sharp action from. I'm not saying there's not some sharp people that like Michigan, but I don't know.
I was gonna say everybody at the Action Network's on Michigan. So maybe they're judging one of themselves as the sharp action.
That's probably it then. That's probably it then.
If there was actually sharp action on, I can tell you why the line is where it's at. The line is where it's at because if you dig into the computers, John Murray, who I know is the sportsbook director over at the Westgate Superbook, he said this bluntly. He does a show with Kelly in Vegas, Kelly Stewart, and I asked Kelly, I was like, why are you big on Michigan? And it's all power ratings. It's all their computer power ratings, which are notoriously poor in this situation. If you look, Vegas has mispriced pretty much every college football playoff for 25 years, whether it's the title game or the play. They've just mispriced it over and over again. And even against now sometimes they mispriced it because the public was on the other side and they could cash. But a lot of times the public's been against them and they were just on the wrong side and they got burned in these games. And so you mentioned LSU. That year LSU was there, public was hammering LSU. It was like, for a good cause. They got 4 NFL guys at their key skill position, and not just any NFL guy, 4 Pro Bowlers. Nobody's going to be competing with that team. They went into Bama and smacked them around legitimately.
Well, you also got to factor in too, Robert, like Dave Portnoy, big Michigan guy, right? He has a big following. He's hammering, hyping up Michigan. There's people that are just blindly following him because he's telling them that Michigan's a lock, right? He's going to say that no matter who they're playing, but they don't know that. So there's a lot of public people that are I think that's why we see the line staying where it's at, because you've got, you're right, power rating, but I think those power ratings are wrong because I think the Big Ten is overrated. I've been saying it all year long before we even got into these bowl games. I think they're overrated. I think the only reason why they look good is because before the season starts, everyone thinks it's Ohio State or Michigan. And then, of course, it comes down to Ohio State or Michigan, but all they do is play against each. I'm not saying they're bad teams. I'm just saying they're not at the same level as some of these top teams like we're about to see Alabama and Michigan. And maybe I'm wrong, but we'll find out today.
Well, somebody's moving this line around because it just went from -113 or +113 to +120 on BetUS on the money line for Alabama.
Yeah, it's moved up.
If I catch this at 125, I'm going to bet it again.
The late. The prediction was that because the public was going to be on Bama, that Vegas would move the line late. There were 2 reasons why the line is set where it's at. and why it's moved the way it is. The reason why that was set this way originally is because of the power ratings. To give you an example, this is why Vegas was all over Oregon against Washington. They had Oregon -10. They thought Oregon should be -14. They had the power ratings because Oregon and their
They
computer
weren't the
ratings.
only ones.
Yeah, there were a lot of people did. And at least there they had some additional arguments. But here, shout out to college football nerds. They pointed out the scaling issue. They were like, Washington is one of those teams that their problem is they scale the same. So they scale fine against elite defenses. They scale the same against weak defenses. So they'll underachieve against Washington State, their rivals, who they could have easily lost that game to. They could have lost the Apple Cup. That would have derailed everything for them. And they can just as easily keep beating Oregon 3 straight under this coaching staff because they scale the same, because they're like an NFL team. In other words, it's their own internal execution that drives their performance, not the other team, not what the other team is doing in terms of offensive capability. Whereas Oregon is all about the other team. If the other team can tackle in space, their offense doesn't move the ball. But most of the teams can't because they have the better skill players, and so they blow them out. But when they face somebody that can tackle well, like Washington can, they've been a little erratic defensively, but good enough, then all of a sudden that offense can go through long droughts. And
well, the other part with that game, which was if I would have known Penix was as healthy as he was, because he hadn't looked that great, and he had, the rumors are he was dealing with some rib issues, and that's why he kind of stumbled throughout the season. Still got the wins, right? But still, even since the first time they played Oregon, had some rib issues. But when you watch that game, the second I saw Penix, like, he was so dialed in with his receivers, they were making incredible passes and catches. Like, they were just in sync. And I go, oh, Oregon's in trouble. Oregon's in trouble in this game because, I mean, and honestly, I thought Penix should have won the Heisman based off of that performance alone, just because they put on a hell of a show in that one. And I don't know. Let's just jump into that game because I know you like you're leaning towards Texas or whatever. I don't want to give anything too much away, but I don't know that game. I understand Texas has the most talent. I know Texas should win this game, but this Washington team, and trust me, I'm a Coug. I hate saying anything nice about the Huskies. They seem to be just like when it matters, they just show up and they're just gonna punch you in the face and we'll see what happens. You know, like they're not gonna go away quietly. And I don't know. I mean, could Texas blow them out? Absolutely. But this Washington team, there's something about them. They're scrappy. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the handicap, the public leans Washington. The handicap for Washington, the arguments being made are that Penix is a better quarterback, that this coaching staff has always overachieved. I don't know
about that. Ewers is pretty damn good. Ewers is playing, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. And the backup is now a certain famous name. And so but I think it's how well Washington performed against Oregon. 3 straight wins really against them.
Well, I mean, if they play like they played against Oregon, this is going to be a fun shootout. This is going to be like, if that offense is clicking, it's going to.
Yeah, I think that. So part one of the handicap is recent performance. Another part of the handicap is the analysis that if we look at draft scout boards, Penix is rated higher than Ewers. Mm-hmm. The next is and that they have elite skill players in the wide receiver position, that they're like those Clemson teams that won it all. The next part of that handicap is that Texas pass defense has been their one shaky part all year long. That pretty much all their pass offense, run defense, all great. Pass defense at times vulnerable is sort of the scouting analysis on them. And then
still better than Washington's defense, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's what we'll get to. And then the last part of the pro Washington handicap is last year. It's all about the Alamo Bowl. Washington went in. Washington beat them last year. Washington's going to do it again. And then you have sort of.
I was going to ask you how much of last year's matchup do you think factors into this year? I mean, same players for the most part of it, but like, how much do you think that experience for both sides of the ball? Who do you think that benefits?
To me, that benefits Texas. Okay. Because Texas lost, number one, it's like a rematch situation. And as you look at rematch situations historically in bowl games, they're not always like title conference championship games, but in bowl games, when there's some sort of rematch, including an earlier season rematch, the team that lost usually wins. The team that lost the first twice. Yeah, exactly. Outside of a few, it's like Nick Saban, I think, has only been beat twice by the same coach consecutively, like twice in his career. I mean, in the recent era.
Wasn't that was that championship? It was LSU Bama, right? I was in college. I remember this, and it was like a 9-6 game. They played each other, then the other team won in the national LSU won in the national championship. Right? That's Patrick Peterson year.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think LSU won 9-6 regular season, and Alabama beat them 21-0 in the Sugar Bowl.
That's exactly
okay.
right.
There it is.
You give Nick Saban time to prepare. God bless you. You're going to need it. So I think you look at that's the handicap on Washington. The handicap on Texas is number one, more talent. Not only more talent, a lot more talent. This is one of the biggest recruiting gap. Both of these playoff games are the biggest recruiting gaps in the history of the college football playoffs. You have not had two teams outside the top 10 in recruiting rankings make the playoffs in the playoff era. You do this year. Almost nobody's talking about it. I mean, Washington's outside the top 20 in most recruiting rankings. Michigan's outside the top 10 of everybody's recruiting rankings. But it's not just there. You go to PFF grades, you go to draft scout boards, mock draft boards, you're going to see the same thing. Massive talent edge for Texas in recruiting, massive talent edge for Texas on the PFF grades and key statistical categories, massive talent edge for Texas on mock draft boards. So if you focus on talent plus time, would say Texas should win by 10 or more. Now, that's the part of the Texas handicap is very talent driven. Secondly, it's that the matchup last year helps Texas and is a good indicator for Texas because Texas defense was weaker last year and they held this Washington team in check. Their whole scheme was we're not going to let Penix throw deep. We're not going to give you your big plays. You're going to have to earn it short to middle, short to middle, short to middle, run some. And that's not been Washington's best modus operandi for putting up points. And they didn't put up a lot of points last year. The
a lot of yards, not a much of points. There was a lot of funny turnovers and stuff in that game.
There was.
I mean, bend don't break, you know?
Yeah. It was, and you assume they're going to do a similar scheme this year, except they have much better defensive line personnel to execute that scheme.
This is Steve Sarkisian's most talented team he's probably had his entire career.
Yeah, well, excluding
no one's even really talking about the Sarkisian UW thing. Like, not many people have mentioned that. Like, usually you see that, like him playing his former team and stuff.
I think a lot of people forget that. I think they remember the USC days when he was getting drunk.
Remember, he had that alcohol incident, like where he would charge all those Patron shots and whatnot. And
didn't he ran through the Saban car wash though? Once you run through the Saban car wash, you come out clean and you're ready to go again.
Steve Sarkisian will tell you,
Mike Loxley, Lane Kiffin, Yep.
Unless you're a Belichick disciple.
Bill O'Brien.
Or Belichick for the NFL.
Belichick disciples have not done well. After
that's another
they can go right through that. You go right through that car wash again and come out and you get another job.
Yeah.
Steve Sarkisian will tell you right now that's the only reason he is as successful as he is today is because of Nick Saban. Nobody else was going to give him a chance before that.
And I think Washington had more to play for than Alabama Bowl than Texas did last year. So in terms of, I think there was a motivational edge. Then the first part of the Texas handicap is just talent. The second part is that Alamo Bowl actually gives more promise for Texas than it does to Washington when you look under the hood. And then the third aspect, this is going to be a de facto home game. I get Washington has big money. It has nowhere near the money that Texas fans have. And the game is being played in New Orleans.
Well, we pulled up earlier, Robert, that UW couldn't even sell out all their 20,000 tickets that they were allotted. They couldn't. Yeah. They couldn't sell.
Now, you know who?
Listen, if it was the Cougs, we would have sold that out, but we also would never be in that position because
here's the thing: that stadium's going to be full today. You know who buys those tickets if Washington's fans don't? Texas fans.
Yes. Yeah, that's going to be at least a 2-1, even maybe 3-1 Texas.
You can have Matthew McConnell. Everybody's going to be there. Everybody.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right.
Exactly.
Robert, it sounds like you're leaning towards the under then in this game.
I would lean toward the under. Because I think that on paper you look at this game and when you do all the statistics and the rest, it looks like a 39-34 kind of game that would lean over. But when you look at how these teams match up, that's where I think it leans more towards the under, using last year as a barometer. So,
I think if we're doing correlations, I think if you like UW, you got to go with the over. If you like Texas, you go with the under.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think and just on a talent-based analysis scheme, I think for Washington to win, they need to replicate their offensive performance against Oregon.
Mhm.
I just don't know how. I mean, they were so on cue in that game. Basically, those were plays that are hard to continually, and they got them all. They were like boom,
Yep.
boom,
Yep.
boom, boom.
Yep.
Every ball bounced their way.
Correct. I think it's going to be harder to do against Texas. Also, it tells you something about Oregon's head coach, quite frankly, that he's been owned by this coaching staff, even though he's had more talent than them 3 years in a row. Sarkisian's not likely to get owned in the same way.
Plus time off. People forget these guys haven't played in over a month. Like
Correct.
that does factor in. You can practice all you want, but like we see some funny things when you take all this time off. You got to factor. That's why I look at coaching. I'm like, well, I'm going to go with Saban because that's a coaching edge, because I know Saban's good. He's been here. He knows what to do. He's going to have an edge over. And honestly, Harbaugh, I know this is going back to last game. I love Harbaugh. I'm excited he's coming back to the NFL, but he tends to choke when it comes the big games on the line. You know?
Well, the way I see it is
adrenaline going on Wednesday.
I don't attribute it to choking. It's that Michigan, he has built a powerhouse program at Michigan that doesn't scale. And in other words, he reminds me of when I went back and looked at those teams in the 80s and figured out early on the biggest, like early on when Fulmer was struggled against Spurrier. You're like, oh, Spurrier's just a much better coach. And I was in the minority saying just the opposite. Fulmer is a much better recruiter than Spurrier. Spurrier just has the massive talent edge because Miami was on probation in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And that allowed him to get
people forget that.
Fred Taylor, who was designed to play running back in Steve Spurrier's offense. Not only that, he had Bob Stoops coaching his defense during that great run.
Bob,
pretty good guy.
Big game Bob.
Exactly. And they were getting guys like Javon Curse, who was designed to play in Bob Stoops' defense. Safeties like Tony George, who were designed to play in his defense. I mean, so he was getting perfectly suited. Mike Peterson, Johnny Rutledge, guys that had 10-plus year careers in the NFL.
And you got a guy like Werfel that just drives the machine.
That's perfect for his kind of offense. A whole bunch of wide receivers that were like the guys that would show up late 90s for Miami, but they're all going to Florida because Miami was on probation and Florida State wasn't playing that style of ball. And so he had a huge talent edge those first 4 years. And I kept telling people, watch when there's no more talent edge, this is just going to be a tight series. It was beginning in 98 to 2001. It came down to the very last play in the game.
Right.
And people had the reason why I got Tennessee at great value in 2001 as an 18.5-point underdog is they were still thinking about that Spurrier matchup from 6 years before, and not that these teams are even talent-wise. There is no big talent gap anymore. In fact, the reason why Spurrier kind of jumped ship from Florida wasn't just to go to the NFL, it's because he was struggling in the recruiting rankings each year as everybody else was coming up, because he was never a great recruiter. I mean, if you've met the guy, he's not the most personable human being on the planet. So my view of Harbaugh has been bet on Harbaugh when he's scaling down, bet against him when he's scaling up. And other than the Ohio State wins, which there's been a lot like this year, on a statistical yard per play basis, they were outplayed by 8 points, and that was at home. But for the breaks going their way on a neutral field, that spread should have been 11. And that was an Ohio State offense whose quarterback now plays for Syracuse. That's how mediocre that guy was. So an Ohio State team that just lost by double digits to a Missouri team in a bowl game. And so it's just not, when you go back to under Harbaugh, it's incredibly predictable. His offenses have never got more than 5.6 yards per play against the top 30 defense. Never happened. The people forget, they see Ohio State last year. Oh, the Ohio State defense was terrible last year. I mean, he was trying to put in his new scheme and it didn't work. He gambled all over the place and got torched all game. Changed it this year. But now they're a good defense. But Michigan didn't. Look at it. So you can go back 8 years. Look at all the data with a Harbaugh in Michigan, and you'll just see that when he plays a top 40 defense, top 30 defense, he's probably going to give you about 5 yards per play, his offense. And never get better than 5.6. So he would have to do something he's never done. And that is a decent sample size in that game sample.
Yeah.
You flip the other side of the ball defensively. Against a top 20 offense with talent, he rarely gives up less than 6 yards per play. On average, they give up 6.5 yards per play. And this has happened over and over and over and over again. People forget last year against that very talented Ohio State team, they just had weird stuff happen in the red zone. They moved the ball all game against Michigan in that game. It was a sneak peek preview that they might have trouble against TCU in the playoff that people overlooked.
Yep.
So the reason why he has this perception as being a choker, which by the way is the reverse. When he was at San Diego University and Stanford, he was known as a big game guy. He beat USC several years. It's because when he's built out, to his credit, he's taken a team and he's got the most out of it. But this is a team that does not have the talent to scale up. So to give an example, Alabama has on its roster, according to is number 1 in composite talent. Michigan's not even in the top 10. That's part 1. Part 2, it's an unusual number 1 versus gap in the sense of you're on average, the gap has been about 10 or so NFL prospects. In other words, top 150 recruits between one roster and another in the playoff when it's bad. This one is 30. Alabama's entire team is made up of NFL prospects.
Yeah.
Michigan has almost nobody that is considered a top NFL prospect. There'll be some guys that overachieve, but let's say you go to the additional place of, well, I'm going to go look at mock draft boards for this year and next year. Alabama has 6 guys this year projected in consensus top 50 picks. Michigan, 0. Next year, Alabama, another 6. Michigan, 0. Michigan's talent is not seen as top-tier talent. Michigan's seen as a good college team that executes really well with discipline, that when they're playing a less talented foe, they can dominate. The moment they step up, they struggle. And under the hood, they played 4 decent defenses this year: Iowa, Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State. They didn't break 5.6 yards per play against any of them. In fact, if you looked under the hood of that Iowa game, very misleading final score. Their offense was atrocious. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't move the ball. That's why I told people, if Tennessee can run the ball with ease against Iowa, that tells you something else about what may be coming down the pipeline. Now, if Iowa shuts down Tennessee's running game, okay, that will give you a little more confidence if you're on the Michigan side. But if they don't,
if we can see this, Saban sees this, and he knows exactly how to beat them.
Well, that's
you talk about those. You talk about those NFL prospects, and Michigan's probably without one of their top guys that could actually play in the NFL today, and Zach Winter, the big offensive lineman that went down, probably their best offensive lineman. Anytime you take a guy like that out of your lineup right there, that's going to obviously affect the rapport you have with the offensive line, the chemistry, and all those things. You're going to have to move some guys around. So that guy today is kind of an unsung hero that a lot of people aren't talking about because he's an offensive lineman. But that's a big factor today when you go against that Alabama front seven, not having that guy in the lineup.
Yeah, Cricket, but they have Dave Portnoy leading the pregame speech and rah-rahing them up and maybe giving them pizza with no toppings on it.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead and bet Michigan then, guys.
Portnoy should just, stick to dating skanks and getting into trouble for the skanksy dates. But
that's right. Eating pizza.
Yeah, exactly. Now you flip it to the other side. So whenever Michigan has scaled up offensively under Harbaugh, struggled badly. Whenever they've scaled up defensively, struggled badly. Now let's look at Nick Saban. When you give him a talent edge and a time edge, and you let him have more than 1 week to prepare, and you give him a substantial talent edge, 10 or more guys that should make the league, at least a five or more gap in the recruiting rankings, et cetera. This is a guy going back to his LSU days that has never lost in any of those games, over 25 games. And his average margin of victory is actually 21 points. And he has never won by less than 10 points. I mean, the guy just, when he steps down in class with extra time, you look at the first week of the year, you look at his bye weeks, and especially look at his postseason play, he just beats the crap out of these kind of teams.
Mm-hmm. He's like Belichick. Like, say what you want about how shitty my Patriots have been this season. I hate them, and then they keep winning these games and covering when I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean,
but Belichick will put
weeks, so
he might not have the talent, but he'll put his team in schematically in the best situation to win. I mean, we see him this year. This year, he's still coming up with that when he was the first one to do we're going to have the gunner on special teams run and block the punt. Like, he still is coming up with stuff like that. That's the same thing with Saban. The only thing is Saban has the talent edge, but you're going to give Saban time, and then he's going to look and see, this is how our best chance to beat you. We're going to try it this way. And it usually works out in his favor.
And when he's lost in the playoffs, it's been on short notice to teams of comparable talent.
Or a mobile quarterback.
Quarterback
too.
Oh, yeah. And Clemson didn't have the depth. But Clemson's first-tier talent that beat him, like the year Clemson got the crap kicked out of them, they didn't have an elite quarterback. The other year, they either had Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, NFL starters.
Quarterbacks.
A good defensive line.
Go to his wide receivers. They were 3 deep within the NFL. Running backs, at least one NFL running back. Yep. And then, as you know, defensively, it was defensive line and defensive backs. He had 5 or more NFL players. Clemson did, Dabo did, that would make the league off of those rosters. The weakness with Clemson was always if they had too many injuries, they didn't have the depth Alabama did. But in the top tier skill level talent, they matched Alabama player for player. And the one year they didn't, when their quarterback was average, they got their crap kicked out of them 27-6. Yep. So I mean, we've seen this script a ton of time. The reason why the whole SEC against the Big Ten kind of the narrative is out is simply a talent narrative. Those SEC teams were, Tennessee was more talented than Florida State, or at least as talented in 1998, more talented because of the quarterback position in that matchup. The Tennessee was as talented as Florida. Tennessee was more talented than Michigan in 2001. People forget how close that spread was. They beat the living daylights off of Michigan. That game wasn't even close. So,
Robert, we have a question from the chat for you real quick. Sorry to interrupt you there, but he says, can you ask what's your opinion on Alabama receivers versus Michigan secondary? To me, that's what Georgia lost. That's why Georgia lost. So
I went and looked, and I was like, well, maybe even somewhere on the stat sheet, I'll find where these Michigan guys are really just overachieving, like some of the Iowa defenses, like some of the old TCU defenses back in the day, some of the old San Diego State Rocky Long defenses back in the day, right? You could say, whatever he's doing, he's getting. And the stats that I like are disruption stats, and then now they have all the fancy analytics, chaos, havoc, all that jazz. I just keep it simple. Look at tackles for loss, look at quarterback hurries, and look at passes broken up. You look at those stats, Alabama has 4 more guys that are in the top tier of those kind of stats. Tackles for loss, quarterback hurries, quarterback hits, passes broken up. Michigan has none. It's another. So when you look at that, and this is a good point to the college football nerds. They were pointing out, they said, if you watch the tape of, and again, this is their model, their computer model says Michigan by 11. And their point is that all the models are going to say that. And they're like, but Michigan doesn't scale. And they were explaining the issue is those Michigan secondary players are really great when they get to go downhill, when they have no risk of getting beat behind them. Michigan hasn't played anybody all year because even Ohio State was not good at throwing the deep ball this year. Penn State was atrocious passing game. I mean, Drew Aller does not look like the 5-star prospect they claimed he would be. Running game good, passing game. Whenever Michigan under Harbaugh has faced, and he's had more talent in the secondary in some of his past years, guys that were considered top 50 NFL prospects that he does not have. He has one guy in the secondary that's a top 50 prospect, and that's a marginal top 50 prospect. Several scout boards don't even have him in the top 50. They got torched. Right? I mean, so if you want to see what's likely to happen, go back and look, ignore the score, watch what Stroud did to them last year. He took Michigan secondary apart. They just had weird things happen in the red zone, or that would have been a 40, 50-point game like the prior years had been. So I think, and what does Milroe do? He throws the greatest deep ball in college football by a long
margin. It's pretty, ain't it? It's real pretty.
And people saying, well, Michigan will just adjust. They'll play a shell defense, and they'll force them to do the intermediate, because people can't get the Texas game out of their head. So they still think the Texas game is going to replicate for Michigan. And one of the points college football nerds people made was they're like, Michigan doesn't really do that because they can't really do that. They don't have the talent personnel profile to do that.
No.
So I think so to the chat question, this is my question to all the people out there that are on the Michigan side. Name me the room you would pick between Michigan and Alabama by position. Would you take the quarterback room, running back room, wide receiver room, tight end room, offensive line room, coaching room? There's not a single position on the field where you would pick Michigan's room over Alabama.
This is where I think the nerds get into the numbers too much and not just like, hey, you've got to watch football. You've got to know, like, could Michigan beat Alabama? Yes. But when we're talking like, is it likely, when you talk about, you laid it all out, the talent, all this stuff, it's like, this is a game that if Alabama loses, they lost themselves. They shot themselves in the foot.
That's what the college football nerds pointed out, because they both, their model said Michigan by 11. They picked Alabama by between 4 and 10.
Yeah.
And they said the only way Alabama loses this game And they said, is that early season Alabama shows up, that they make mistakes, they make unforced errors, they take dumb sacks, they throw bad interceptions, they make a special team screw up, they have a busted coverage like they did against Texas, multiple ones. What people forget is before that game, Sarkisian had kept a lid on Ewers. And whenever Ewers threw the ball deep, he had been terrible that year. Maybe it was even deliberate. But so Alabama was like, Kevin Steele was like, okay, they're not going to throw deep against us, so we can cheat short on everything. And all Sarkisian did in that game was throw deep.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they were hitting them all. And so it makes you wonder whether he just told Ewers to miss on the deep balls or something. Because usually you don't see that kind of one game reversal. But that's Sarkisian. Sarkisian knows Saban very well. He knows how to scheme against him. That's the one X factor if that's the national title matchup game. But statistically, historically, by historical metrics, when teams of this talent differential have played each other with this kind of time layoff, the more talented team of this scale, when there's this level of difference, has won by 21 points. And that's the level of gap you're talking about here. If I was setting the line, I would have made Alabama 10 to 14 point favorites. And so that's.
You talk about the quarterback play. I mean, Quinn Ewers coming out and really having a great game against them. You know, he was having a great game last year down at Texas with Bryce Young on the other side before he got hurt, went out of that game.
I was at that game.
Yeah, right. You were at that game. That's right. J.J. McCarthy can't do that. You know, when they beat Penn State, he threw the ball 8 times in that game and just kind of salted it away there. I think you might find yourself in a hole here where you got to have that guy throw the football to try to catch up, and I don't think he's that guy. I don't think he can do that.
And if there was some secret ability, some secret sauce, they could come up with creative coaching, creative playing. I mean, you've seen little bits of it against Ohio State at times.
Yeah.
But that is literally all you've ever seen from Harbaugh, where he has overachieved or surprised. You generally see what you got all year. He's going to try to go out there and line up and run the ball. He's going to go out there and, execute some conservative passes and a few other plays. And he's going to play disciplined defense, try to take away your run game, try to not and really he's sporadic at being able to take away the big play. Because, I mean, the other factor this year is I think this is the weakest number 1 seed, weakest schedule that anyone has faced since like some of the 80s Nebraska teams that made it to a national title game, like against a Miami team they really didn't belong in there against. Those kind of matchups, or Florida State, where they got dominated for years until their talent caught up. Defensive talent caught up, especially in the 90s. This was an atrocious schedule. This is what we're seeing in the postseason is these Big Ten offenses mostly stunk. Maryland is the only offense that had any.
I think they're overrated. The conference is overrated.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Minnesota sucks. They struggle to beat Bowling Green.
Oregon would beat Michigan. Oregon, I was rooting for them to get into the playoffs because I think Oregon would run with. I don't know. It's just.
I think that's why Michigan was praying to God they got Florida State rather than Alabama.
That's exactly why when I saw Portnoy and all them touting they deserve to be in. I'm like, no. Listen, the biggest robbery is that Georgia got left out because let's be honest, it's Alabama, Georgia. That's
it.
You saw
those two teams and everybody else is a tear down.
The team's reaction whenever they played who they were facing. You saw it in the room. They're like,
Michigan. All those players like, oh God.
Well, they know the talent. Michigan's top 2 wins of the year are over Ohio State and Penn State, who both just got whipped by the lesser SEC teams. This is not Alabama. Alabama whipped. They didn't whip Ole Miss. They dominated the second half. They didn't play well in the first half, but that was when they were still trying to figure things out. But Georgia beat Ole Miss by 40.
And they're claiming like McCaffrey was banged up. I'm not fully buying that. I was like, is it really a coincidence that the same Michigan team that whenever they've scaled up in the past faces 4 top 40 defenses in Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State, and Iowa, and suddenly can't move the ball? When no Harbaugh team has ever been able to consistently move the ball against those kind of teams.
Has Harbaugh ever gone up against Saban, or is this the first time?
Yeah, he has, and Alabama beat the daylights out of him.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Yeah. and like Georgia's beat the daylights out of him.
Yeah.
When Florida got time off, Florida beat the daylights out of them.
Robert, let's say it's Texas-Alabama national championship game. Where do you put the line?
I put Alabama -7. So
you think okay.
I think the line will actually be
3.5 right now.
Yeah, it's 3.5 now. The thing is, it could jump because the reason why Vegas is so the way I know smart money's not on this game is given how Vegas's power ratings have Michigan as a double-digit favorite in this game. If any really money they respect had come in on Michigan, this line would have moved to 3 because they would have thought they were just stealing from the public. They're like, the public's got this totally wrong. They're just overhyped on Alabama. Even though Vegas has never really priced the BCS title or playoff game well, especially these kind of matchups. Think about Alabama, Notre Dame. I mean, some of these games that they thought were going to be close, like these games are not going to be close. Alabama, Michigan. I think it was Alabama, Michigan State. I think wasn't Alabama also played Washington. I mean, that year
Alabama destroyed Washington. Yeah, that's
right. I mean, they destroyed Michigan State. It was like that team didn't belong.
That's why I want Washington to win today, because I want to watch Alabama just destroy them again.
Yes, exactly. That's an appropriate Wazoo response.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see Washington pulling the upset. It's just Washington would be the least talented team to ever win the national title in the BCS era.
Yeah.
And that's why I just can't see that. It's like there's a reason why talent shows up at this time of year.
That's another reason why I really wanted Penix to win the Heisman. Well, one, I thought he deserved it, but two, I'm like, they can't win this title. They can't do any, like they can, but it's highly unlikely.
It would be
like,
very fluke.
Yeah, it's never happened before.
Yeah, they're not. Even if they did, they were not the best team out of everyone. You know.
No, it would be pure. I mean, it would be. I mean, the only time teams like that have won is like '91 Georgia Tech when you didn't have a BCS playoff.
It's a different world now.
I mean, remember, and we've had people. It's the historic. Like what I was intrigued by is all the wager talk analysis, all the Action Network analysis. I was like, surely we're going to hear some historical analysis of what has worked in the play. Have we been here before? Have we seen this kind of situation? And there's been almost none of that. It's like I remember all of it. I remember people hyping Florida State '98 against Tennessee. I remember people hyping Virginia Tech, Michael Vick against Florida State '99. And I was like, hey, I love Vick, but the talent gap here is massive. This Florida State team is better than the last year unit, and Virginia Tech does not compete. And what happened? They scaled up, got blown out. You could see
it's like for Washington to win, it would be like when Johnny Manziel beat Alabama. It was because he had the game of his life, right? And it just everything.
And Saban's on a short week. You give a short week, then you can beat Nick Saban. You can out scheme him like Hugh Freeze does all the time. That's why I was on Auburn in that Alabama game. Didn't surprise me at all because Hugh Freeze had been scheming all year for Nick Saban. Nick Saban had not been scheming all year for Auburn. Same like Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan schemed all year for Ohio State. Ohio State, I doubt maybe they should have been, but I doubt they've been scheming all year for Michigan.
Smart.
Yeah, I like.
Ryan Day's going to be good. Well, I guess he's going to have somebody new to go up against. Harbaugh. I think you are right. I think no matter what, Harbaugh's gone.
Yeah.
I think the X factor is
there was this report today. Let me pull it up real quick. We didn't get to it on the show. Harbaugh hired was it Donnie Yee or Donnie?
A big NFL agent.
Well, right here. Hold
you
on.
only hire that guy if you're planning on going.
Right here. Michigan hired Don Yee to represent him. So it means, if he's smart, he goes to the NFL. I mean, a lot of people are tying him to a bunch of different places. I mean, he could go, if you want, you could go to Chicago, get the number 1 overall pick, draft your quarterback, which gives you years, because obviously no one's expecting to win right away. And if he actually likes one of these quarterbacks, then that's the way to go, because then that's your handpicked guy,
And because I think talent has been the problem for him in college football, and that he's got a bad rap but that rap will continue if they do get blown out by Alabama. I think he may be undervalued as an NFL coach because this is a guy who got to the Super Bowl and within an inch of winning with Colin friggin' Kaepernick, who couldn't hit the right side of a barn.
That's what I'm saying. I like him as a coach. I think he's a great coach. It's just like these situations. He said he can't scale up. That's the other thing we haven't even talked about today, or I don't hear anyone talk about all the distractions going on at Michigan with all the investing. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on
the
there.
Players know he's going. And I'm not convinced at all that, and also his coaching staff, I just see is kind of so-so. When he had McDonald that went back to Baltimore, I thought that was a unique defensive coordinator. But even there, it's just the problem is he doesn't have contrary to what like Rob Vino said and to what Marco said on Wager Talk, there's a massive speed gap in this game. The idea that Michigan has a bunch of speed, it's like, where are you getting that? The reality is neither Ohio State nor Penn State's quarterback could take advantage of it. Maryland at times took advantage of it, but Baby Tua has never been his big brother. We saw that when the backups outplayed better than he did most of the year in the bowl game. So I just think My view is there's a 5% chance Michigan wins this game. I mean, that's how that's my free pick for the show is Alabama. I have a lot of money riding on Alabama.
I know a certain someone on this show was leaning towards LSU, and he said you have convinced him off of LSU. So Steps was saying he's like, nah, I'm going to stay away now. So you had a good convincing argument there. I hope it is Alabama, Texas in the championship game because I'm just going to throw this. I'm going to throw this stat out there. Look how Nick Saban does against his former coaches outside of Kirby Smart. I mean, he doesn't lose.
Even Kirby Smart, he's only lost. Was he 4-1?
Yeah.
So I mean, he won the national title game against him. He won the two SEC title games. He just lost when he had to play a rematch against him within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I mean that's extraordinary. I mean, the only guys that ever actually really gave him trouble are really creative offense. Like DeBoer could actually give him a little bit of trouble potentially.
Yeah.
Not tons, but a little bit because it'd be a short week. Sarkisian will give him a little bit of trouble too. This goes all the way back. Like people forget, it's one of my old grievances about LSU Tennessee 2001. Aside from the fact that LSU was very lucky to win that game, if you look at it statistically, Tennessee normally wins that game by 14.
We'd already beat them in the regular season. I was actually at that game.
Oh, really? All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, Tennessee Stallworth had fumbles that he never has. We had a bad 4th and goal call by the officials. This was pre-video review era. But if you looked at that LSU team, he should have won national titles earlier at LSU. I mean, that LSU 2001 team that beat Tennessee ended up, I think, with something like 36 guys that ended up getting NFL paychecks, including a bunch of defensive linemen and other key players that would be in the league for 10 years plus. So you're talking about rare talent. The problem he had is he could not figure out Spurrier's offense. Spurrier would torch him year in, year out at Florida, and Florida and LSU always played each other. So once he got a complete talent edge, that went away. Like there was no more Spurrier. But Spurrier still caught him later at South Carolina, beat Alabama at South Carolina once because of that same thing. Hugh Freeze gives him that kind of trouble. Johnny Manziel with that offensive scheme gave him that kind of trouble.
And Mike Evans, we didn't know how good Mike Evans was until
we didn't know. We know he was a future Hall of Famer.
I mean, Gus Malzahn has always given him that kind of trouble. Yeah. You factor out those creative offensive scheme coaches that can trap him on a week-to-week basis. Dabo Swinney can do it to him. He dominates, just utterly crushes. And that's why this is such a mismatch. Historically, Alabama wins by 21. The talent-wise, Alabama wins by 14 or more. The schematic matchup, style matchup, player matchup all says double-digit victory for Alabama, yet you're catching points. So that's my I don't think you'll see, like I said, it's the best spread I have seen since. Now I bet massively on Georgia last year against TCU. That was my 5% play. Well, I was like, you can make that 20, 24, 27. I was like, this is a mismatch.
You didn't even have to watch that one.
It'd be the same if Alabama, Washington, like this Alabama secondary is probably the best secondary. Nick Saban's had some elite secondaries. He comes from a defensive backfield. This secondary, every single player in the 2 deep is projected to go in the top 50 either this year, next year, or the year after. That's how talented he has got, the most talented. And early in the year, a bunch of them are young players. They schematically, Sarkisian trapped them. But other than that, they are dominant defensively. I think they match up, well, like against Washington. That spread would need to be at least 20.
They wouldn't even have to throw the ball. They could just hand the ball off if they were playing against Washington. Run the ball down their throat.
Such a disaster. I mean, that's why from an entertainment perspective, I think the only thing that keeps that spread limited is Texas beating Alabama earlier in the year. Because my thought was I was trying to figure out whether to take a futures bet or not. And I was going back and forth because I was like, if it's Alabama against Washington, that line is going to be massive. You might as well, if you like Alabama, take Alabama to win it all at 2-1 right now. On the other hand, if it's Texas, if Alabama does win big, if I'm right about that, if Alabama wins by double digits, that line is definitely going to go up depending on how close the Texas-Washington game is. But I think what keeps it cabined is people are going to remember Texas beat Alabama at Alabama this year. But otherwise, I could see that spread getting over 7 fast, especially if Vegas is kind of shocked by their power ratings being so wrong. Given how confident they are that they think Michigan should win by double digits in this game.
What I was just thinking of is we were talking about earlier about Kelly leaving maybe LSU for Michigan. Is are coaches going to want to go to Michigan after the potential violations that might be coming down? I mean, does that play a factor into any of that? I was just thinking about that because they're going to get hit with something.
Well, maybe that's the other quid pro quo behind the scenes. That Harbaugh told that they really just wanted Harbaugh out.
Yeah.
And that Harbaugh sacrificed himself for the program.
And they'll say his 3-game suspension was enough that the NCAA doesn't need to do a bunch. And
I think it did teach Harbaugh. I think two things it taught Harbaugh being at Michigan. I think in his first mind, he wanted to be Bo, the second coming of Bo for his home program. But I think once he realized how difficult it is to overcome the talent gap on a consistent basis, and the best he could do is build a disciplined program that could pull some upsets over Ohio State and get to a playoff, but it was unlikely he was ever going to win a national title consistently, that the fan base could turn on him very quickly like they did a couple of years ago after the pandemic season. That for a while Ohio State owned him, which I'm sure he hated from a competitive perspective. And then now the regulations that okay, they're going to try to catch me on this, catch me on that. He would just rather be, and he sees his brother, having all the success he's having.
I was going to say he's even competitive with his brother. He still
Completely.
doesn't.
So I think he will be very successful in the NFL. I think he is.
He's successful wherever he goes. It's just he's just that type of guy. That's just what he does. And I think depends on where you want to set the bar.
And I think he just got a bad rap for not overachieving. I mean, coaches Osborne for a long time. I mean, people forget what they said about Osborne. Throughout the 80s, they're like, oh, he can't win the big one. Can't win the big one. Yeah, then he just won a bunch of them once he had comparable talent. Even at the end, they were saying that about Fulmer. When they mistakenly fired him in 2008, and we went through 10 years of crap football because of it. We deserved to be cursed for the idiotic decision. But just listen to Nick Saban. Says college football is simple. Or Barry Switzer says college football is simple. Have more Joes than they do, and you win. And
I wanted to get your opinion on this, Robert, real quick. A sidetrack, a little side story, but this broke today. We talked about it earlier. So the Panthers owner, did you see this? David Tepper?
He got so ticked off at some fan. He threw alcohol. He threw a drink on him.
Yeah, I want to get your legal mind on this. Does that fan have a suit?
Yeah, absolutely. He should sue for all the emotional distress, the shock. He'll never be able to go back to an NFL venue again. He probably can't even watch TV. He's lost entertainment.
Can he win?
It's probably going to break. He can't even be with his wife anymore. He's so depressed and distressed.
Didn't sleep a wink last night.
He was sober for 21 years.
He's probably going to go back to alcohol and drug abuse because of this.
He might vote for fucking Biden.
Yeah, that's how bad it is.
Big money. This is a big money suit. This is a big money suit here.
I want to ask
this though, because
future damages. My brain is so damaged, I might vote for Joe Biden.
You might actually end up suing Roger Goodell at the end of this.
Yeah, sir. If you need an attorney, we know a guy.
Yeah, exactly. But
I wanted to ask this though, because NFL owners, they're in a league of their own, right? And Tepper is he's the self-made guy. He's always had things go his way, right? He's got the richest owner. He's got the FU money, but there's the good old boy club, and you don't do this kind of stuff as an owner. Do you think this causes? I mean, he's a new owner in there. Do you think this just outside of the lawsuit or anything like that? Do you think this causes issues between the owners of in the league?
I think if he's smart, realizes he screwed up, makes an apology, writes a check to the right people, writes a check to that guy, and probably moves on. I don't know him personally at all, so I don't know whether that's in his psychology. But that's probably the smart move, and probably it blows over. He's lucky it was a white guy fan, to be honest.
Oh, man, you're right.
If there had been a different racial dynamic, this would be on ESPN 24/7. I mean, they're trying to get away from all the woke insanity because of how their ratings.
They'll take a headline.
But that one you can't.
They would have been all over this. I mean, they're on it a little bit
TV.
now, but Barstool covered this more than ESPN initially. As sort of the fan champion, if you will. I think it won't help this coach at all. I mean, it won't help this owner at all. I mean, he should be throwing water. He should be throwing alcohol on himself for
He's an arrogant prick.
And you made a trade. No, what he's probably mad at? He probably thought that fan was his GM, the one that did the deal to give away the number one pick, because now Chicago Bears have the number one overall pick in the draft.
You also know what's not good when your owner comes out and says, "Yeah, we wanted CJ Stroud." Oh, that gives great confidence in your young quarterback that's struggling right now.
Exactly.
Right.
And when I was at that Alabama-Texas game last year in Austin, watching Bryce Young, I was like, oh, this guy's a career NFL backup. That he'll be a very good and capable and competent NFL backup. He'll steal some games for you as an NFL backup when he's got to play, but he is not an NFL starter. Whereas when you watch Stroud, you're like, that guy's an NFL starter.
He's got an arm. That's what I was saying.
I didn't think
I wanted
Stroud
Chicago
would be this
last year. I said Chicago last year should keep the #1 pick, trade Fields at his peak. Now, granted, Fields is looking better now the last few weeks, but I go last year, him at his peak, he still had a couple years left on that contract. You could have probably got a decent haul for Fields. Someone would have taken a shot at him. And I go, take Stroud. He's the same player, if not a better passer, which obviously we've seen he is now. And you get to renew that rookie contract.
Yes,
that was the biggest thing. And so hey, I'm happy with it because I got CJ Stroud, offensive rookie of the year, plus 950 on that one.
Oh, that's a steal. That is a highway robbery right there.
Yeah, and I'm just happy that he came out and played last week. I still think he would have won it if he didn't play the rest of the season, but you never know with voting and stuff like that. But he sealed it because Puka's having a good season too. So,
I mean that's an amazing, fun season. But from an impact perspective, Puka's not going to move the line 5 points, 4 points, the way Stroud does.
Stroud and them might make the playoffs for.
And I would bet on Texans if they have good value. I would if they're getting more than a field goal. I would like them in the playoffs. I mean, I think that some of the chat. So to wrap up, I lean Wisconsin, lean Liberty, lean Tennessee, lean Alabama, lean Texas. But my big bet is on Alabama, which I think is the biggest spread mismatch I have seen. I think there's at least a 90% chance Alabama wins the game, right? You never see that disparity. Normally the best I've put out was 60%, something like that. Since Tennessee was catching 18.5 points to Florida. Steve Spurrier's last ever game at Florida Field, he lost as an 18-point favorite to the University of Tennessee and Phil Fulmer. Just a little reminder for all you Gator fans out there. But yeah, exactly. But I think shifting the NFL and the playoffs. I mean, I think it's good.
I was going to ask you if you have time. I want to get your opinion on some of these NFL matchups that we might have coming up here.
Have they put out the schedule for this weekend? Who's playing who? They usually try to match it up so that certain teams are.
So the last game, we do know that they flexed the last game. So Sunday Night Football this week is going to be Miami and Buffalo for the title.
That's the Red Zone guy was predicting that during the show. Which makes sense because now it's. Look at that would have been a good bet early in the year when Buffalo had lost a couple of games, kind of some of them by bad luck, some of them by Josh Allen being Josh Allen. But I think they dropped something like 8-1 to make the playoffs at one point.
Yeah. You could. When I was looking at them, they were plus 550. I actually made a bet last week, hoping that Miami would have gave Baltimore more of a challenge this last week, or at least even won. I made a bet that Josh Allen would win MVP because I was like if he has he needs to beat the Patriots and then he's going to have this duel against Tua, and we've seen just with the Heisman recency bias, it's all about what did you do for me lately. If he can go in there and beat Miami in the last week of the season, he has a shot. I mean, it was like 40-1, so I was like, it's worth a sprinkle. And then, but of course, Lamar, I think, sealed it up this last week. I was off of Lamar. I still think Christian McCaffrey's the MVP, but I mean, they're going to give it to Lamar.
Isn't Lamar now at 200-1 favorite? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just
and he's not going to play the last week. He's not even
playing next week. Yeah, he don't have to play next week.
So what we have locked in, we have Baltimore locked into the 1 seed. Kansas City is locked into the 3 seed. They can't go higher. They can't go lower. And Cleveland is locked into the 5 seed. In an NFC, we have San Francisco locked into the 1 seed. And then I believe, and then the Rams are locked into the 6 seed. They can't. I don't think they can move around.
So okay, yeah. So I guess there's more games with some playoff implication because in other words, in the AFC, the 2 seed is up for grabs.
Yeah, it's going to come down. Whoever wins, Miami or Buffalo, is going to get the 2 seed.
Buffalo could actually be as high as the 2 seed, but it could actually play out where they actually miss out on the playoffs too if they lose.
Yeah, Pittsburgh wins, which they're playing Baltimore, who is not going to be playing anyone. So if Pittsburgh wins and Buffalo loses,
lucky again that Pittsburgh
Buffalo's out.
They run so good.
Ooh,
if Pittsburgh makes it into the playoffs, there's certain teams I'm definitely betting against in the playoffs. If Cleveland, I'm going to bet against. I'm not buying the Joe Flacco resurrection.
Ooh, really?
I agree.
And Cleveland's defense, this has been my view of the NFL for a while. Good defenses can play well at home. They don't travel against quality quarterbacks.
We've seen that with Cleveland all season long.
Exactly. I've been betting against it in totals and other bets constantly. And really what it is at home, the other team has trouble communicating, so you can scheme certain ways defensively without them being effectively able to counter offensively. You get more offensive holding calls against your defensive linemen. You get to jump a little early, and it's often not caught. You get to hold a little downfield, especially those northern defensive teams. Your New Englands, your Pittsburghs, your Green Bays, and your Chicago's, et cetera. The Jets fit into that. The Browns fit into that as well. But they don't travel. So it just feels like one of those
Even against a
blowouts.
banged up Jags team, though. I mean, we'll see how healthy they are.
I assume Lawrence will be back. I'm just thinking that line will be small, and
I think Cleveland would be favored. I think they'd be like a 1-point favorite on the road there.
I would make the Browns at least a touchdown underdog in the playoffs against anyone else other than, say, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay. Well, they're either gonna have to go to Jacksonville, Indy, or Houston. I think that out of all those teams, they don't want to see Houston right now. I think
Houston beat the crap out of them. I mean, that bet I would bet heavy if Houston. Well, I think Houston's going to win next week and knock out the Colts. I still think the Colts are more. Even though I like your Wazoo grad Minshew, the mustache. And he's given him. I think he gave them a better season than Anthony Richardson would have. I was not.
I agree with you too. I agree with you. I love Minshew. I mean, I met the guy. I was in college when he was there, so it was.
Oh wow!
Cool dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so you had to play with the stash. So
he also met the great Mike Leach. R.I.P.
Oh, I love Leach.
Mike Leach was all time great. It
R.I.P.
might have been related to a certain shot. He died of a heart attack.
Who knows?
Put that out there. I mean, look at Travis Kelce. Ever since he's been promoting Pfizer, he's no longer safe or effective.
Or Taylor Swift.
You put that out in a tweet, and we pulled it up earlier in the show. I was like, "This is my favorite tweet of the weekend." You posted that, and I go, "Yes." He had one target, 0 catches.
I'm definitely a boo. Kelsey's like Gronk, except not as fun. So he's as dumb as Gronk, but he's not as fun as Gronk. So
everyone was like, "Oh, is Swift going to be the halftime show this year?" And I go, "That would be too scripted. That would be like the only reason why she's dating Kelsey is because of the halftime." I'm like, no. And plus, to be at the halftime performance in the NFL, you got to be like 20 years past your prime, and she's not there yet.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think Kansas City's getting out of the first round. I mean, they could easily get up. This is just not a good Kansas City team. They've been barely getting by.
The only thing is, it looks like if Buffalo beats Miami, it's going to be Miami going to Kansas City, and I got no faith in Miami. I got no faith in either of those teams. I was really hoping it would be Buffalo going into Kansas City again.
If it's Miami going into Kansas City, I assume Miami will catch points. I'll be betting heavy on Miami.
Okay.
From my power rating perspective, I have 3 teams as elite this year, and it's Baltimore, Miami, and San Francisco. I can tell you from a statistical profile perspective, going back to last year when I planned on betting San Francisco throughout the playoffs, and then Purdy got hurt against the Eagles, and then had a big 5% play on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So it's not like I'm a Mahomes. Hey, I've been a big Andy Reid fan for forever. Man prints money when it comes to sports betting. Mahomes, you can really bet against when he's a big favorite, bet on when he's an underdog. I mean, he's been very predictable that way. But this Kansas City team is like the New England team towards the end at times. And some of those middle years that kept trying to cheat when we don't have, I don't mean cheat like as Rex Ryan made fun of on Sunday, letting the ball, he goes, I got to lean towards New England because at times, Belichick knows how to let the ball out of the air, let the air out of the ball.
Robert, what I was saying was, that Kansas City is in a bad spot and they can't flip the I mean, granted, they covered and won yesterday, but they can't, from that Raiders game, from that Raiders game that Mahomes knows they're in trouble because that's why he threw those back-to-back pick sixes. He was trying to do too much. He's frustrated because he knows the team sucks. And also, how many balls did they drop yesterday too? Still, the announcers are talking about it.
We saw the meme. They explained how do you get the Raiders to score back-to-back touchdowns. Mahomes explained it's a bundle deal, just like his insurance package that he's trying to promote. So and they have.
I like the other one too. Why does Mahomes hate New Year's Eve? Because he doesn't want to see another ball dropped.
That's good. And I like Mahomes, but this is just not. This is like those New England teams. Remember they had like all those nobodies as receivers, and they thought they could keep sneaking by with those. And it's like that's
trust me, I was right there believing that they could.
Yeah, and it was like you can't. You go from having like Randy Moss and that great 08 offense, and you got out schemed by Spagnuolo's New York Giants team, and so Spagnuolo was the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, so I could see them pulling something off. But this is just a team that's screaming weakness. Travis Kelce looks way past his prime. He doesn't look. It's in a year he's suddenly gone boom.
Yep.
And that was their main guy. And so you look at now the key with the Dolphins is health, because they are a scheme, talent-driven team. Same with San Francisco to a large degree.
Weirdly, Dolphins need Waddle and Tyreek out there. Waddle wasn't out there this last week. They need that because it's one piece out. They've shown with the running backs between Achane and Mostert they can make it work. But with Waddle and Tyreek, it really opens up the offense.
And especially, I mean, Kittle was kind of banged up at one point during the game, and then the not having both Achane and Mostert because they present different kinds of threats. I mean, I was a big Achane fan when he was at Texas A&M. But I think you make those guys healthy. In the postseason, they're just a different animal.
And revenge factor after getting embarrassed in Germany this year.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you combine those things. I like Miami, like Baltimore. Like if I were looking at, I would take out the Super Bowl favorites and I would take 50% of the odds and I would allocate them amongst Baltimore, San Francisco, and Miami, and the other 50% and allocate it amongst anybody with a good quarterback, which would exclude Pittsburgh, exclude Cleveland. I don't think they have any chance of winning the Super Bowl, in my opinion. And I'm probably going to short them when they get. Remember when Pittsburgh got there in last year, Big Ben? It's like that team didn't belong in the playoffs. And then what did they lose, 30-3 or something to Kansas City? I mean, it was an ugly, ugly game. It was like these teams that sneak their way. New York Giants last year against Eagles, one of my biggest bets. I was like, this team snuck in to the play. They have no business being in this playoff situation. So, I mean, Baltimore, Harbaugh, very hard to bet against. Postseason, Lamar.
Who do you think can beat them? Who do you think in the AFC can beat them?
Oh, I think a lot of these teams can beat them. I mean, they have to go into Baltimore now and beat Baltimore. But Lamar Jackson does not have the greatest postseason record. This is a guy that teams have figured out a way to. And I look at that roster. Now, I assume they're going to have Edwards back, the tight end back for the postseason or not?
No, he's done. Andrews is done for the season. That's why I was off of him.
Yeah. Well,
Likely's a beast, though.
I mean, and he's doing some nice numbers. I just look at those guys and say, who would I put? Well, put it this way: most of the teams they will face will have better skill position rooms than they will.
You know who they don't want to see, and no one wants to see, is this Buffalo's Bills team. The defense is starting to get healthy, and the offense is starting to play at the level. I mean, you talk about you need a quarterback. You got Allen there. All right, it's been rocky. It's been shaky. And this is coming from a guy that thought Buffalo was going to finish last in the division before I realized how terrible my Patriots was at the beginning of the season.
Remember, Houston gave Baltimore trouble at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
wasn't that? I mean, that was Stroud's first game. I mean, they were hanging in that game, and so I think Houston can give them trouble. I think Miami can give them trouble. I think
that would be a fun one. Houston back in Baltimore. Oh,
and I think let's say Baltimore was a 5 or 6 point favorite against Kansas City. That's the game where I could see Kansas City getting one last hurrah for Andy Reid Mahomes this season, because that's where Andy Reid is so good. That's where Mahomes is so good.
So in that game.
And I'm not quite sold on Baltimore Ravens defense. Like it was kind of flukish what happened against San Francisco. Like I would still rank San Francisco as the better team. And if this goes to a Super Bowl, I think I would favor San Francisco by more than a field goal. Statistically, from a yard per play,
you're not gonna have Purdy throwing or turn the ball over 3 times and a half.
Pass and another tip pass for a pick and another tip pass for a pick.
That was a weird game.
San Francisco is still, in my power ratings, the number one team. They had they had a bad game, but talent-wise, now their defense is making things a little bit shaky for me. But talent-wise, San Francisco should win the Super Bowl.
Oh, no question. And to give people an idea, this goes back to Purdy last season. Why I was going to be betting 49ers all the way through it, Purdy stayed healthy, is that their yard per play offensively is off the charts. You're talking about they're close to 7 yards per play offensively. You're talking about that more than 35 points a game is what that would typically translate to in the NFL. That is extremely rare. And you have a defense that has been average this year, a little bit above average. But if they get everybody healthy, they got problems in the back end that are going to be a risk for them all year. In the postseason. But they're not like the old bad Kansas City defenses at times, and some of those that had to sneak their way in. This is, the talent, their offensive scheming is good. So I lean 40. I think 49ers is the best team. That's who I would give the best odds to. Next would be Baltimore. Close behind Baltimore would be Miami. And then, for live dogs, I mean, I don't know what the current futures markets are, but I mean, you let C.J. Stroud in this Houston Texans team with it gets a lot of people healthy in the postseason. They're a live dog against anybody. If Kansas City ends up being an underdog, then there's actually value there. Jacksonville with Doug Peterson. This is the guy that beat Belichick in a Super Bowl with that dimwit QB.
Nick Foles.
Yeah, Nick Foles. I mean, you know what I mean?
Because Belichick wouldn't freaking put Butler in because he was being a stubborn asshole. And I'm like, dude, we need one stop. You didn't make him punt once. Brady threw 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, and you still lost the damn Super Bowl because you were being too damn stubborn. Listen, I'm a huge Patriot fan, so I know all these ones, and that still pisses me off. I want to ask you this. I loved for a futures bet, and I bet it early in this middle of the season. I go, if there's a team that has a chance, I put a little bit on Detroit making some noise, but I do not like the fact that it looks like it's going to be Rams Detroit, because this Rams team, who I also picked to win last week, I bet them 40-1 to win the NFC, mainly just hoping that I have a chance to hedge out at some point. But I'm like, this Rams team's making the playoffs, and this Rams McVay. The biggest reason why I was on the Rams this season is McVay didn't come. He had a cushy job lined up for him. He could have left the NFL, been at a peak, and then kind of done the Gruden thing where they'd always want him to come back, and he's getting paid millions just to sit there. But he wouldn't have come back if he didn't think he had a squad that could win, right? And now they're playing. I mean, granted, they didn't look great against New York yesterday, but a lot of people thought that was going to be the case. But they're playing. They went toe to toe. They went blow for blow with the Ravens a couple weeks ago. Like, this team can make some noise. Now, it sucks that they have to go probably through San Francisco, but I don't know. I like this Rams team, and I do not like that matchup for the Lions. But what do you think out of the NFC here?
Well, I mean, it'd be fascinating, for Goff to be up against his old team. That sort of kind of cut
Stafford against his old team.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
They got traded for each other.
Coming back to Detroit in the playoffs. So I think I think the Detroit offensive coordinator is the best offensive coordinator in pro football, even better than the Miami and San Francisco offensive play callers. I just think he's at a different level. They're another team that's scheme and position talent driven. So, they need everybody healthy. But if they have everybody healthy, they have Amon-Ra, that, Laporte, Jameson Williams, with Gibbs.
It's their defense, though. Their defense isn't consistent. They played great yesterday, way better than I thought or Saturday.
They're about to get their key Eagles guy they got in the offseason, the great safety. I think he's coming back.
Okay.
So when he played for him, the defense was above average. As soon as he went out, their defense went below average because they don't have the depth in the defensive backfield to do it, to compete. But I think when you add that, and then you have the key with Goff, it's simple. Can you get pressure? Is he playing indoors or outdoors? As long as he's playing indoors and they have a scheme to prevent pressure, he dominates. When he gets pressure or he's playing outdoors in the elements, he struggles. So I think Aaron Donald's very much on his last legs. So you'd look at that and say, do I think the Rams can get consistent pressure? If not, I like Detroit playing at home, even against the Rams. I would probably favor them by 3, something like that. So and I think because of the history of the matchups, et cetera, it won't be bigger than that. I would bet against them if they're 4 more.
I'm gonna whoever the dog is in this matchup, I'm gonna tease them up. That's
it should be a close. Absolutely, should be a close game because Rams will definitely be able to get points, especially with everybody healthy on their side. Cooper Kupp, Pakua, everybody else.
So the Rams are wide receivers of what led Cricket to. I think. Did you end up winning the? I didn't ask you. Did you end up winning the championship? No.
No,
sorry.
I got drubbed, man. I think his team had the best week they've had all year long or something. He really he hung up a big number on me. But hey, the fact I made the Super Bowl in the first year of that Dynasty League, I feel real good about that, man. I'm building things for the future.
I won the belt league.
We have quite a few, or at least we have one big Dallas Cowboy fan. He cashed a 50-1. I think it was 50-1 ticket on his Rangers. He's a big Texas guy, big Rangers to win the World Series. Yeah. So he's all about the Cowboys, and he's had a theory, and it's a trend that worked all season long. And I ignored it this last week, and it won again. Whoever plays the Cowboys the next week, fade them against the spread, and it's won every week this year. I just can't see. And Heavy steps down below. He thinks that Cowboys are going to turn it on this season come playoffs. I don't. If they go to San Francisco, I don't see how it's not an ass whooping again. I just don't see it.
That's exactly what's going to happen again. I mean, can you trust Mike McCarthy in the postseason?
No, I'm a Packers fan.
Yeah, exactly. I was a long time. I mean, I was living in Wisconsin. Mike McCarthy's not. Now, this was my secret conspiracy theory as to why I think Belichick might be gone at the end of the year. All these rumors keep circulating. He's going to be gone. He's only going to be gone if he secretly wants out, so he could go. Because who would who would immediately Jerry Jones hire if Dallas blows it again in the postseason? He'd fire McCarthy, go grab Belichick. He then has one of the great coaches, and once again he just put his old buddy that he had stiffed for a while in the Dallas circle of fame there.
You gotta bring Jimmy Johnson in to fucking GM that shit. That's what's missing. You can put whatever coach you want until you go get your salted McGriddle and sit in the corner. We ain't winning the fucking Super Bowl.
Well, and I'll give Jerry credit or Jimmy credit. Jimmy was very complimentary when he kept using the word "we" help pick stuff. It's like, come on, Jimmy, just say I did it.
He handled it well. That was a great speech by him.
Yeah, it was. And he finished it well, and he's always really wanted that. I mean,
Robert, where do you think Belichick leaves, and where do you think he goes? Because I have my whole theory on this.
If you're New England, you're completely idiotic to let Belichick go. I mean, the reality is this is a guy. This is his first truly poor season, in my view, in his New England coaching career. He's with backups that got big contracts later, he managed to be a 500 guy without Tom Brady at times. We now realize, Mac Jones, now where there's a weakness, Belichick needs to hire better talent analysis because there is where he has struggled.
He needs to quit drafting. He needs to let someone else draft.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, at a minimum, have somebody else there that you trust that is really good because whoever it is he's trusting, to the degree he's trusting his own eyes, he's failing. I mean, this was Bill Parcells' problem.
He also trusts like a lot of the SEC, like Saban, and so like why do they continue to draft Florida defensive ends and stuff like that? He trusts those guys down there, and they just don't pan out. They don't work.
No, it's not the same system that worked for him back when Urban Meyer was landing all that NFL talent. With Mac Jones, if there was one red flag on Mac Jones, which was if his first read wasn't open at Alabama, he had a terrible quarterback rating. It never mattered because he had 4 NFL wide receivers.
Yeah.
So, they were just beating the daylights out of everybody. His first read was always open. Mm-hmm. And then he gets to New England and he really struggles. Now, I'm not a Bill O'Brien fan either. I'm not sold on him at all. I wasn't sold on him at
your Alabama. One problem with this theory, Robert, is you think that it's all about the Patriots decision. What if Belichick wants to leave?
Well, that's what I think. The only way Belichick is gone is if he has a secret plan to weasel his way down to Dallas. And that he's the one been leaking all year, and that really he wants to sucker New England into canning him so he can feel good about looking for greener pastures without the New England fan base because he's a loyal kind of guy, Navy upbringing, all that jazz. Because I think otherwise the place I think Belichick would go is I think he would go back to Navy as one last hurrah to his old man to coach the Navy program. That would be, he talks about how he loves it. He was at the game this year. He goes, that's where I learned all the fundamentals. He loves Annapolis. So, but I think I cannot see Robert Kraft being dumb enough. I mean, don't make the mistake the cokehead owner, Jim Irsay, made it at the Colts when he decided to dump Peyton Manning. We can do this without Peyton Manning. Good luck with that. How did that work out? Even you got into luck.
Still not working out.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the dumbest decisions ever.
Well, I think Belichick, Brady saw the writing on the wall that last season. That pick 6 he threw to Tennessee in the playoff. Trust me, I still remember it. It's just Brady knew I can't do it. There's no talent here. This team is not winning a Super Bowl anytime soon. Brady left. Belichick would have been smart to leave at the same time.
Yeah.
Then there wouldn't be was it Belichick, Brady, blah blah blah. And
I think
all that
Belichick thinks, hey, this would be easier if I jump ship. And grab a program that already has a team that already has a quarterback, and I don't got to go find one.
Yeah.
And I think all the success with backups, though they were really temporary successes. Jimmy G didn't ultimately pan out. Matt Hassel ultimately didn't pan out. A lot of these other guys,
Brian Hoyer, that they keep bringing back.
Hoyer, Stidham, or whatever his name was. He didn't. These guys don't pan out over time. Misled him. Because he just doesn't have a quarterback. But that's what makes it impressive. The fact that he's got – everybody knows he's got no passing game. It's not like he has a great running game to substitute for it. And yet, even when he goes on a bad losing streak midseason, he finds a way –
won it at Denver and won in Denver against Peyton, who Peyton wants to win right now.
Who killed the Circus Survivor guy. The Survivor guy that was about to cash a $10 million ticket. There was one of the 13 left. The one who wouldn't chop. He put it all on Denver against New England.
I don't blame them. We suck.
What an
Of course, we
asshole.
win that. But God, okay. The other thing I was gonna say was I think Belichick, like you say Dallas, and that makes sense to me. I think the other spot that makes sense, and it's they already have a quarterback. I think the Chargers. So he has his quarterback, but those owners are so stingy. I doubt it happens. But it would make sense because the Chargers spend a majority of their salary cap on their defense. They have a high price defense. So if there's anyone that's going to come in and fix that defense and get it to play where it's supposed to perform at, I think it would be Belichick, and then you wouldn't have to worry about the offensive side of the ball because you've got your quarterback. Whether whether Keenan Allen or Eckler or anyone's there next year, it doesn't really matter. You can bring in pieces, but the main thing is having your quarterback, and a young quarterback like Herbert, good solid quarterback out there. I think the Chargers makes a lot of sense. Some people are saying, why would he even want to coach? Maybe he just retires. I'm like, the dude's been doing it for 50 years. This is all he knows how to do. You retire and you're done.
Yeah, with him, he's the guy that's going to die on the sideline if he has a choice.
Yeah.
Chargers would, especially he would love a guy like Khalil Mack because of how he could help revive his career and how he can move him around, and that's kind of his classic kind of player that he excels with. Harbaugh, if he was smart, Chargers would be a perfect place for him. Back in Southern California, they like cheap conservative. He's got a great quarterback. He'll get the defense more disciplined.
Spotlight.
He's an immediate Super Bowl competitor. So
Bob brings the superstar stardom to LA, right? Because that's what LA likes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think for long shot Super Bowls picks, it would be. I assume Buffalo is no longer a long shot. A couple of weeks ago they would have been good because you look under the hood. Despite Allen throwing some picks, statistically they have a very impressive profile. Then you look at. In fact, I think by a lot of NFL power ratings, they're in the top 5. And the NFL, unlike, say, college football, where it's tough to really have an objective power rating because nobody plays each other that once you're in the post-conference play or non-conference play, the NFL is pretty accurate because everybody really does play each other for the most part. And but I would like the Texans as a definite long shot. I could see sneaking in. I'm trying to think of the NFC. San Francisco is so dominant. It's like, who's going to go into San Francisco and beat San Francisco? I really can't see any. I don't see the Eagles doing it. I don't see the Cowboys doing it.
As long as they stay healthy, their thing is they got to stay healthy. As long as McCaffrey is a big part of their offense, a big deal.
Yeah,
I'm of course going to bet on him to score the first touchdown every single playoff game because that's what I do. But Debo, as long as Debo's out there, that's when their offense
and
really.
And then you add Kittle and then the fullback. That's such a hard combination, especially in that scheme. And Purdy,
you have a smart coach. Yep,
Brandon Ayuk is one of the most underrated players in the league,
and he keeps getting better and better and better.
Yeah,
I can't. The Rams have always struggled against the 49ers in this era.
It's also going to be tough to go. The Rams would have to win 3 road games in the playoffs. That's just tough to do.
I don't. And Detroit that's Goff having to play outdoors against a defense that knows how to bring pressure. So it's like everybody they match up. Whatever level of, I would make them at least even money to be in the Super Bowl. And then, so I'd probably put them at 2-1, which is probably better than where their odds are in the market. I would like them against, the Super Bowl is going to be in Vegas, so it's going to be indoor track. That should be a fun time period. It's just this rematch of the Baltimore-San Francisco game from when the Harbaugh brothers faced each other in the Super Bowl. The difference is, I like that when you look under the hood, the San Francisco offense has been more consistent at dominant play than the Ravens have.
Well, you've heard about the conspiracy theory out there, haven't you? About the colors, the Super Bowl colors.
I know I haven't.
2 or 3 seasons, if you look, the colors have been the matchups of the teams that have played, and this year it's red and purple. So everyone's assuming it's San Francisco and Baltimore because the NFL is scripted.
Yeah. I can see that. And if it is scripted, it's going to be San Francisco and Vegas, not Baltimore. Also, the Super Bowl tends to be more evenly matched, but those San Francisco fans are going to buy up every ticket they can. Whereas the Ravens fans are good, but they're not quite at the same level as San Francisco. And my perfect scenario is that Baltimore goes on a run like they've been on. They keep all this continued hype, and that they're, say, 3-point favorites in that Super Bowl. Then I would
love it.
Hammering the 49ers.
Yep.
Do you think Baltimore's peaking?
First touchdown scorer in the I'd be betting Chris McCaffrey Super Bowl MVP. How about that?
That'd be an excellent bet.
Yeah.
Real quick, boys, I got to hop out of here. I'm about 40 minutes away from kickoff. Don't end on my account. Y'all keep doing your thing. Uncle Bob, thanks for coming in with us, man. We really enjoyed it. You know you're welcome anytime. But I got to get ready to watch my balls, boys.
Yeah, exactly. The has one already kicked off? Is one at noon?
Actually, Wisconsin's
up.
scored 7-0 Wisconsin. They just
There you
scored.
go, Robert. There it is.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
They
yeah.
just headed in the right direction. So good luck to you
Before-
boys today on all your wagers. Chat. Shout out to y'all. Appreciate y'all. But I will see you guys soon. Y'all take care.
Hit it
now.
up on Twitter, Cricket.
Later, Cricket.
Be good, brother. What,
Oh man.
Robert? Before you take off, what's your prediction on the 2024 November 8th deal we got going on?
Oh, what is that?
The old ballot box.
Oh, you mean the election?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got money in on it. I'm heavy in this year.
Yeah, we put in political betting analysis also at
You
Sports.
do.
Oh yeah, sportsmix.locals.com. Will help put the odds in your favor on everything. 2023 has been very profitable because from the beginning of the year we said to short DeSantis, bet Trump, short Newsom, bet Biden for the Democratic nomination. We said bet Kennedy, that Kennedy would go up in all the relevant political betting markets. All of those bets have been very, very profitable.
Yep.
So, and we're still on Trump. Think Kennedy will go up in the betting markets because a lot of those betting markets are live betting markets. For those people that don't know about a lot of places like Predict It here in the United States, some other Betfair globally, they're like trading markets, so you can trade in and out.
Buy stock.
Exactly. Can
I ask you your opinion on, because you and Viva haven't done your show the last 2 weeks because of the holidays and whatnot. So right as you did your last bourbon with Barnes, and then with that chaos in the political world happened with the removing them out of Colorado and now what is it, Maine or whatever.
Yeah.
Can you briefly just give us your opinion on all that stuff, and how soon does the Supreme Court step in? Because clearly they have to right now.
Yeah, I think Polymarket, for those people that like it, has event-driven bets. So we put a bet out that said that Ukraine would not march to the sea, if you will, in Russia in the conflict by November 30th, and they did not. So that was one of the bets that cashed. The one of the bets that didn't was betting against Barbie. That thing just took off like wildfire. But a lot of our other side bets, what the Fed would do, we've been about 50-50 on some of those. But one of the betting right now is, will Trump be on the Maine primary ballot? And I think they probably have one up on Colorado too. I haven't seen that. I just saw the Maine
He's on
primary
the ballot.
Right now, he's expected that whether the Secretary of State wants him off of the Maine primary ballot. Yeah. And it's listed as 86% chance that he's on the ballot. I would say closer to 97% chance he's on the ballot.
Okay.
So I think that the Supreme Court is being forced to step in when they probably would have rather stayed out if they could have. And I think they're going to have to step in and say you can't take him off the ballot.
Was it Michigan? Did that tilt it? So when Michigan, Wisconsin, they say no, he's on, and then you got Maine and Colorado. You got the Supreme Court in Colorado. You got a Secretary of State acting by herself over here in Maine.
Yeah, it's more that the courts historically, whenever a serious candidate wants on the ballot, they overturn any effort to keep that serious candidate off. Or I should, there's plenty of serious candidates they take off, but what I mean by serious candidate is someone that's drawing at least 5% of the polls.
Right.
So exactly. He's a leading candidate, the leading presidential candidate and former president. So they have so Eugene V. Debs was in prison in 1920 for sedition, and he was on the ballot.
Yes. This is not insurrection.
Right. George Wallace, they tried to keep off the ballot of Ohio in 1968. Supreme Court put it back on. There was Perot, mostly they didn't even try to keep off the ballot in states, so that they just sort of forfeited it. They tried to keep Nader off the ballot in 2004, and it only temporarily worked. I mean, even though it worked in some states, it led to courts overturning the fact that he was ever excluded. So
set precedent.
Correct. It's the small candidates they're used to screwing.
Yes.
Not big because it makes the country look like a joke. It just a complete crock. I
understand why the Republicans are doing it politically, but do you think it's a bad look when they're like, well, Texas is going to remove Joe Biden off the ballot? I think it's dumb.
Dumb.
Oh yeah, but you only retaliate it if it's the only alternative.
Yeah.
In other words, if the Supreme Court isn't stepping in, and Colorado and Maine are able to successfully exclude him from the ballot, then you have no choice but to tit for tat. Say, okay, fine. We'll take him off the ballot in Florida. We'll take Biden off the ballot in Texas. States that they could actually kind of compete in at some level.
Those are huge electoral
Correct. Now, I would be careful of that politically if I was on the Republican side for the same reason Democrats should be. To give an example, Colorado, Maine, those are almost double-digit lean Democratic states. Very tough for Trump to win those states. However, if Trump was not on the ballot in those states, Bobby Kennedy, if he inherited Trump's vote, could win those states outright, and Biden could suddenly lose them. That's why I thought as long as Kennedy's out there as an independent, it is very foolish of Democrats or the system to try to remove Trump from the ballot because they're likely going to reward Kennedy, who's as much a threat to them as anyone else, and take away electoral votes from Biden. In the same way, Texas and Florida, for example, if they were to take Biden off the ballot, Kennedy may have a chance to steal those states.
Yes.
So, you add up because Kennedy's going to get probably double digits most states across the country. You add that to whatever the Democratic or Republican vote is, and in many of these states, that's enough to win. So I wouldn't rush to that. I understand why they were putting that out there. Some of it was political theater to try to motivate the court to step in and say we can't afford this kind of tit for tat to occur, where the president of the United States isn't. Now, people the only time this has really happened is during the people keep saying Lincoln was off the ballot. That was not really correct because we didn't have a state issued ballot until the 1890s. Okay. So the ballot was people would bring it in. They just weren't going to count votes for Lincoln if you brought in ballots for Lincoln in the South.
Yeah, they just weren't going to get. He wasn't going to get those electoral votes. So really, Lincoln didn't probably waste some money to even send the ballots down to the southern states.
Exactly. That's why that
cost money back then, and they didn't have that kind of money. So,
it would have been a waste. But now it did happen in 1948. Several southern states took Harry Truman off the ballot. And then and the reason for that, the court's not getting involved, was that was the peak of the civil rights movement, and the court was slow to react. I think if they would have thought Harry Truman could have been denied the presidency for that reason, they probably would have stepped in. But that's the only historical example. In the modern era, they have not allowed states to exclude a candidate getting a lot of public support because, again, it makes the country look like a joke. That we look like Iran.
Public shit.
It's all
the stuff that we're not. Or supposed to be, at least aesthetically, to the world.
And that's where the Supreme Court's likely. I get where people have skepticism of the Supreme Court because they've shown a lack of courage in some past cases in this context. But this is just too high profile. And when you have half of the Democratic leading legal people saying this is a bad idea, it's going to put massive pressure. You'll probably see a unanimous Supreme Court decision.
Yeah, 9-0 decision.
Yeah, saying no.
And then a huge push.
I hope so. That would be the best to calm everyone's nerves, because if it was split along party lines, then we've got issues.
Oh, yeah, the same ongoing debate. But it's so evident that you can't take that the judiciary increasingly is being put on trial, and the Supreme Court is not going to let them get embarrassed in that way. Mm-hmm. So my prediction is that Trump will 97% chance Trump will be on the ballot in every single state, both at the primary level and the general election level.
Hey, and to get more of those bets and picks, you go to sportspicks.locals.com, people. That's sportspicks.locals.com. And go get you. Robert's got some 5% plays up, and I'm sure he's going to have some up. We got NFL coming up.
Oh, yeah, playoff. Last year we've had 3 consecutive Super Bowls where we made big profits. Last year we had 5% plays in college football final, the NFL Super Bowl final, the college basketball finals, the NBA playoff finals, the European Champions League finals. We won every single one. So that, if you want to go to some place, you get tons of free picks. People at Cricket, other people put up free picks. Major Wedge, there's a bunch of cool characters on there.
Oh, Major Wedge, yeah.
To do, we got people that put up tennis picks. The smaller European leagues, rugby. So if you just want free picks, there's tons of free picks you can get at Sports Picks. And we're still the most affordable, most accessible, and successful high-volume handicapper you'll find anywhere. Again, profits in every major sport over a 3-year run. Big success in 5% plays. Profitable this year in every major sport. Not many people, and we'll give you basically over 100 picks a month for what is basically anywhere is less than $1 a pick. You won't find anybody else out there that has the success rate we do at that affordable rate. So if you want to help put the odds in your favor, sportspicks.locals.com.
Go join. I'm a member. I've been a member over there since day one. It's fun. It's a great group. A lot of people you see in our Rumble chat are also members over there, and it's just fun to. It's fun to. We even got people over there that like can't watch Rumble at work, but they have to do it through the Locals app. So we make sure to post the link over there to the show and try to check in and catch their comments over there. But we had did Cricket tell you we had a guy who we helped him with this? Or well, I don't want to take credit for it because the guy did it himself, but he won his Survivor League.
Oh,
like
fantastic.
A ton of money. Yeah, and we talked him off of like taking Green Bay one like a couple weeks ago and taking someone else, and because of that, he won.
Sweet, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a good
all
good
the
group
local
of
communities are great.
Mhm.
And it's a great place. You know, at a minimum, you acquire more insight, more information, more understanding of the aesthetic and of sport itself, as well as how good thinking and good logic and good reasoning, emotional discipline that good sports betting will teach you over time, or political betting, as the case may be, or you can just use it for other things to increase the entertainment value, maybe make good financial investments in terms of the political aspects of the investment analysis that we give.
I use it as a resource. I mean, honestly, a lot of times you'll post your card, Robert, and I'll look at it, and I don't tail everything, but I just use it as, okay, this is where they're at. That I'm going to
you get additional insight, additional information.
Yep.
We did a big write-up on the Alabama-Michigan game, so you can see what the logic is, where it comes from, what's the basis for it. And people say, okay, I like this, or I don't like this, or I agree with that, I don't agree with that, and take whatever you want from it. And have fun with it. So it's been a profitable investment for everybody who's invested in it so far, and it's been a lot of entertaining value and fun throughout the 3 years that we've had it up and going.
And where's that at?
Sportspicks.locals.com.
That's right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been fun. Robert, we really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a few hours and talk sports. It's a blast. And we'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning for the Sports Morning Espresso Shot with Cricket and myself. This is a great way to start off the new year, and we're gonna cash some tickets tonight and keep on rolling. So until then, good luck.
In the words of a great fan, roll damn tide.
Yeah, that's right.
Roll
Tide.
Thanks, everybody.
Be good, Robert.
Thanks, Robert.